Committee member? Good evening, everyone. 29th regular meeting of the Medford City Council, September 21st, 2021. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Bears. Council Falco. Vice President Knight. Council Marks. Council Morell. Council Scarpelli. Council Scarpelli is absent.
Council is absent.
President Caraviallo.
Present. 6 in the affirmative, 1 absent. Please rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On a motion by Councilor Knight to suspend the rules, seconded by Councilor Falco. All those in favor? Motion passes. Hearings. Hearings 21460. Medford City Council will hold the public hearing in the Howard F. Alden Chambers at Medford City Hall, 85 George P. Hester Drive, Medford, via Zoom on Tuesday, September 21, 2021. A link to be posted no later than Friday, September 17th, on a petition from Greater Boston Donuts, doing business as Dunkin' Donuts, Mark Kafua, 283 Middlesex Avenue, Medford, Mass. 02155, for a special permit to amend its hours of operation in accordance with the Medford zoning ordinance, Chapter 94, Section 94/145, to operate extended hours at its business at 283 Middlesex Avenue, Medford, Mass. Said site being located in a commercial 1C1 zoning district as follows. Extended hours of operation requested 4 a.m. to 7 a.m., 7 days per week. Petition and plan may be seen in the office of City Clerk, room 103, Medford City Hall, Medford, Mass. Call 781-393-2501 for any accommodations. Okay, well, this is a public hearing. Do we have anyone here that is in favor of this? Do we have somebody from Dunkin' Donuts on the call?
Yes.
Okay, here you go. Name and address for the record, please.
Emily Fitzgerald, 280 Merrimack Street, Methuen, Massachusetts.
Thank you. And you are in favor of this?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in favor of this? Hearing and seeing none, we close that part of the meeting. Is there anyone in opposition to this? Anyone in opposition? Hearing and seeing none, we close that part of the hearing. Okay, would you like to give us a brief synopsis on your petition here, on the hours of operation?
Yes, we are currently allowed to operate from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. and we would like to open up at 4 a.m. So the extended hours will be from 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. We did all of the necessary tasks required. We ran in the newspaper, we put out the abutters list, and we're just hoping that this gets approved.
And the previous owner had the same hours, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Do we any discussion from the council on this? Okay, hearing and seeing, and do we have a motion to pass this? The motion by Vice President Knight, seconded by Councilor Bears. Councilor Marks. Yes, the Councilor Marks has a question for you, ma'am.
Regarding deliveries, is the hour of deliveries going to change due to this petition?
No. I'm sorry, can I just clarify the delivery for product to our store?
Correct.
No, that would not change.
It's all going to be the same
Correct.
as it currently exists. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, so on the motion by Vice President Knight, seconded by Councilor Bears. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Bears. Yes. Council Falco. Yes. Vice President Knight. Yes. Council Marks.
Yes.
Council Morell.
Yes.
Council Scarpelli is absent. President Caraviallo.
Yes, 6 in affirmative, one absent. Motion passes. 21461, City of Medford, notice of a public hearing. Medford City Council will hold a public hearing in Howard F. Alden Chambers at Medford City Hall, 85 George P. Hester Drive, Medford, via Zoom on Tuesday, September 21, 2021. A link will be posted no later than Friday, September 17, 2021, on a petition from Mark Cephalo of 435 Riverside Avenue, LLC, doing business as Superior Auto Body, to operate an automotive repair and auto body shop Class 4 license at 435 Riverside Avenue, Medford, 02155, in an Industrial 1 zoning district. Petition and plan may be seen in the office of city clerk, Medford City Hall, Medford, Massachusetts. Call 781-393-2425 for accommodations and aids. Where this is a public hearing, is there anyone here speaking in favor of this? Name and address to the record, please.
Oxafalo, 4 Bridge Street, Salem, New Hampshire.
And you are in favor of this.
Yes, I am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in favor? Hearing and seeing none, we motion this part of the hearing closed. Is there anyone in opposition to this? Anyone in opposition? Hearing and seeing none, we close that part of the hearing. Mr. Stuffalo, if you'd like to come up and give us a brief description of your business?
Business in Medford. I bought the previous owner, John, who's been a long-term owner of the business for the last 30 years. I purchased his business, all his employees, and looking to keep the business that's there as a staple in the town and continue to grow it and keep it going.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Stuffalo? Okay, on the motion by Councilor Falco, seconded by Councilor Bears. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Bears. Yes. Council Falco. Yes. Vice President Knight.
Yes.
Council Marks.
Yes.
Council Morel.
yes,
Council Scarpelli is absent. President Carviallo.
Yes, 6 in the affirmative, 1 absent. Mr. Stuffalo, thank you for opening a second business in Medford and keeping all the employees and creating some jobs. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are suspended. That's where we are right now. Petitions, 21544. Petition by Michael Morello for Clear Channel Auto, 86 Maple Street, Stoneham, Mass. 02128, to replace the existing digital billboard faces at 162 Mystic Avenue. Is Michael Morello here? Okay. Okay, Mike, are you there? Mr. Clerk, can you unmute Mike Morello?
Hello,
Good evening, Mr. Morello. Could you give us your name and address for the record, please?
good evening. Mike Morello, Clear Channel Outdoor, 89 Maple Street, Stoneham, Mass.
Mike, can you give us a brief description of the petition here, of what you're doing to replace the billboard face?
Yes, since 2010 approximately, we've operated a digital billboard at 162 Mystic Ave. And we're simply asking permission tonight to replace the digital billboards since they outlived their useful life.
Okay. Do we have any further questions on that? Councilor Morel?
brightness as the previous screens.
They'll be no brighter, they'll just be clearer and more efficient.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
President Knight,
Mr. President, I see this is nothing more than a betterment, and I would move for approval.
okay. Any further questions on the petition? Okay, hearing and seeing none. We have a motion on the floor. Who made the motion? On the motion by Vice President Knight, seconded by Councilor Bears. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Morello.
Thank you.
21545, the petitioner has asked to table that till next week. Communications from the mayor. Oh, sorry. Do we have a motion to table 21545? Motion by Vice President Knight, seconded by Councilor Bears. All those in favor? Motion passes to table till next week. Communications from the mayor, 21546, September 8th, 2021, to President Caraviallo and all members of the city council from Mayor Brianna Longo-Kern, RE food truck permitting. Dear President Caraviallo, members of the Medford City Council, on behalf of the below entity, I respectfully submit to the Medford City Council the following request for a food truck permit in the city of Medford. In addition to the city council approval, vendors are required to adhere to the Board of Health Department food safety requirements. So it would be a Bon Me food truck, and the event would be at the Brooks Elementary Fall Festival fundraiser. The date would be October 17th, 2021, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And the location would be at the Brooks Elementary School. Thank you for your consideration. Request is submitted. Mayor Brianna Longo Kern.
Mr. President, this is commonplace. Bon Mi's been there now for, I think, 7 consecutive years.
That is
The Brooks
correct.
Fall Fest has been a very successful event in the community. Move for approval.
Okay, on the motion by Vice President Knight for approval, seconded by Councilor Falco. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. 21547. Budget amendments. Dear Mr. President and City Councilors, I respectfully request and recommend that the City Council approves the following amendment to the fiscal year 2022 budget. Line item 101-151-5032, contract legal services. Fiscal year 2022 budget amount was $26,600. Proposed amended amount, $81,600. Following the passage of the fiscal year 2022 budget by the council, I engaged in conversations with Council President Caraviallo, City Solicitor Kim Scanlon, and KP Law to develop a process where the council can avail themselves to KP Law services and counsel as needed. In those discussions, it was agreed that the request of the council attendance or advice will be submitted to the council president, who will coordinate with the city solicitor and KP Law to get whatever legal resources are needed to address the city council's request. Respectfully submitted, Brianna Longo Kern, Mayor.
Motion to refer to committee of the whole, Mr. President.
On the motion by Vice President Knight to refer to a committee of the whole, seconded by Councilor Marks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to table is to a committee of the whole, to a committee of the whole is done. Okay, 21548, September 10th, 2021. Personnel ordinance. Dear Mr. President and councilors, I respectfully request and recommend that City Council approve the following amendments to the revised ordinance entitled Personnel Act, Article 2, Classification and Compensation Plan, Section 66-33, entitled Officers, Employees, Non-Union by adopting the following changes. Amendment A, the language of CAF 11 shall be amended to include the following position: Assistant Purchasing Agent. Amendment B, the language of CAF 12 shall be amended to include the following position: Land Use Planner. Amendment C, the language of CAF 13 shall be amended to include the following position: MCM Station Manager. Amendment D, the language of CAF 3 shall be amended to include the following position: MCM Production Coordinator. Please note that the above included positions are those that have been discovered to have been created previously but not included within the compensation plan. Additional positions may be added to the existing compensation plan following the upcoming compensation plan salary study being undertaken by the city through the Community Compact Grant Program. We respectfully submitted, Brianna Longo Kern, Mayor. Good evening. Name and address for the record.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. President, and good evening, council members. Nina Nazarian, Interim Chief of Staff, representing Mayor Brianna Longo Kern.
Welcome to your first meeting.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the council taking up this matter this evening. We have, as you know, four positions which we would like to include on the CAF, also known as the CAF system that the council approves. I'm happy to take questions on any of them and speak to each of them to the extent that the council would like me to do so.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the Chief of Staff? Councilor Bears.
Thank you, Mr. President. Welcome to the meeting. Thank you for the work that you're doing. I just wanted to ask I know that one thing that was committed to by the administration over the summer was coming to the council with CAF updates and reviews to make sure that it aligns with the current positions that actually exist in the city. So my two questions are, I think you just answered the first one, but I'll ask it again. These are positions that have existed for a significant period of time, but were never included in the CAF. Is that correct?
That is my understanding, yes.
And are there additional positions that you expect to bring to the council in the future that have existed for a significant period, but weren't in the CAF ordinance?
Counselor Bears, I'm racking my brain right now going through the positions that we have posted, but I would have to review that question to be able to provide an accurate answer.
Okay, thanks. And I'd appreciate just an email.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Vice President Knight? Mr. Vice President, if you could put your mic on, please. Okay, there you go.
Thank you. Are all these positions filled?
At this time, the only position on this list that is filled, as far as I have understood, is the MCM Production Coordinator, the last position. We are presently working through filling at least 2 out of the 3 that are on this list, if not 3 out of 3. It would be, obviously, just to follow up on that, it would be very important to be able to process these to allow the hiring process to occur. So there's no delay in the staffing for these departments.
Have these positions been filled during the current administration and they've become vacant, or are these new positions that you're trying to create? I know, I believe you
My
said-
understanding, and I cannot be, in fairness, I cannot say this with 100% certainty because I've only worked for the organization for the last year, but my understanding is that these positions have become vacant during this current administration and not prior to, and not filled during. But I certainly defer to the PDS director, Alicia Hunt, if she has any further.
The what?
Excuse me, I defer to the current PDS director, Alicia Hunt, if she has further information or any corrections to my understanding.
If I might.
Good evening. Name and address for the record, please.
Alicia Hunt, Director of Planning, Development, and Sustainability for the city. The land use planner position is the one that has been filled by Annie Streetman, and she just left us in June to take a consulting position. Upon looking at the CAF system, we found that there were no planning positions listed in the CAF other than the director position. So while there were in previous budgets listed on budget sheets, the actual CAF spreadsheet did not list Annie's position or any other planners. So that is what this position is. The MCM station manager is the one where we just lost our station manager, obviously. So it was filled during the pandemic and is a recent vacancy. And actually, I believe that the assistant purchasing agent, if I might, I believe was Fiona's position until she was promoted during the pandemic.
Hold on.
Thank you. Just how long was Annie Streetman in that position?
At least 2 years, maybe 3.
Okay, but prior to this administration?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And lastly, the CAFs that are presented to us this evening, is that the rate of pay that these positions were previously paid, or are there any adjustments that have been taking place with the offerings that have been made this evening?
I can speak to the land use planner and confirm that that is within the range, that is within the CAF that the prior position was paid. And I can also confirm that, and I actually have to look into the assistant purchasing agent, the MCM station manager, and the MCM production coordinator. I don't want to misspeak.
I assume that's the same.
So we don't know if the positions that you're bringing before us this evening are upgrading the salaries of the titles.
If the council would be so agreeable, I can find that information this evening if you're willing to hold this matter and return to it. I'd be glad to find that information and provide you the accurate information this evening.
So move, Mr. President.
So, any further discussion? Councilor Marks?
Have any of these positions been posted?
They have.
All positions?
The assistant purchasing agent has been posted and we are in the present process of attempting to fill that position. The MCM station manager is being finalized in the interview process right now. Land use planner?
It's posted. We're trying to circulate it. There's a hot demand for planners right now to get applicants. So it's posted, but we're just in the very beginning trying to get the word out.
And MCM production coordinator already filled position, existing position.
So is it the intent of the administration not to fill the position until the CAF is created?
Certainly, the goal would be to establish the CAF this evening and then fill the position so that there's no delay, because with the hiring process, as you can imagine, and as I'm sure we've all been through in our own lives, hiring quickly and communicating in a way that provides a speedy and consistent process is critically important, especially in this time where it is very difficult to fill positions because of the number of positions open across the country, and wanting to ensure that we are able to fill with the successful candidates and the wonderful interviews we've had.
Right, but we just, I think it was your recommendation to lay it on the table for 1 week, so it's not going to be approved tonight.
No, sir. My recommendation was to, if the council were to be so willing, to allow me to find the information this evening and come back to the council this evening and present the information so that the action can be taken this evening.
Come back, that's not the way I understood it, so that's up to the council. That's not the way I understood it, Mr. President.
My apologies for any
That's up to the
confusion.
council.
Council Falcon?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just had a quick question. What's the range for CAF 3? Do you know what the actual range is?
I can also collect that information and bring that to you as well. I can bring all of them.
If you wouldn't mind, if you could
Certainly.
get the ranges for each of these CAFs, greatly appreciate it.
I'd be happy to do so.
Thank you very much.
Any further questions for the chief of staff? We have motion, Council Morel.
I think following on Councilor Falco's point and understanding there is continued work. Following on Councilor Falco's point and understanding there is continued work in this, if perhaps the next time, when these are presented again, the salary ranges could come with it so we can have all information in front of us.
Absolutely. That's great feedback. Thank you. I will be sure to include that information in future papers.
Thank you.
Mr. President, just if I made to
Councilor
my
Bears.
fellow counselors, I think we're back to requesting to be turned on the microphone. So when you press the button, you'll have to wait a minute I think it might be Kat turning them on right now, actually. I was confused for a second.
Okay. Do we have any further questions for the chief of staff?
I second Counselor Knight's motion.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor by Vice President Knight. So on a motion, is this, Council, is this the table or to approve it? Okay,
Later in the meeting.
till later in the meeting?
Right, just motion to table.
Okay,
Motion table, we can
so
take off.
on the motion by Vice President Knight, the table, seconded by Councilor Bears. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, council members.
Do we have anything else on the suspension while we're here?
Mr. President?
Councilor Marks?
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe we have a number of residents that would like to speak on a community issue, Mr. President?
On the public participation?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilor Morel?
We have a number of students here for 21525. I know they're here to speak as well, and it's on the agenda.
What number was that?
21525.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. President, there was also one more communication from the mayor, 21549.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see that. All right, let's do the communication from there first before we do.
Still
Okay.
here.
Okay. 21549 to President Caraviallo and all members of the Memphis City Council from Mayor Brianna Trainer. RE Community Preservation Committee request for housing reserve appropriation. Dear President Caraviallo, members of the Memphis City Council, On behalf of the Community Preservation Committee, I respectfully request and recommend that your honorable body approve the following recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee, requesting the appropriation of $355,000 from the Housing Reserve to Medford Community Housing for the creation of 3 new affordable units on Fellsway West. The project will be tracked in Community Preservation Funds by the category Housing Reserve. Thank you for your consideration. Respectfully submitted, Mayor Brandon Long. Do we have some mayor that wants to speak on that? Good evening, Madam Chief of Staff.
Microphone to
Okay.
follow. Thank you. Good evening again, Mr. President and council members. This matter, we have Danielle Evans, the housing planner and CPC coordinator on the Zoom call this evening. And we
Okay,
also
where
have
is
in
she?
the
Let me find
audience
Danielle.
Susan Collins from
Okay,
Medford
see Danielle.
Community Housing. I defer to them.
Okay, I refer to Dan.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, can you unmute Danielle, please? Hi, Danielle. Name and address for the record, please. Hold on one second. We didn't unmute you. Okay, good. Good evening, Danielle. Name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Danielle Evans, Community Preservation Coordinator, Housing Planner, 79 Quavia Road. We have a request from Medford Community Housing to increase the original appropriation by an additional $355,000. This is for the creation of 3 affordable units on Fellsway West. This has been in the works for several years. They experienced some delays due to some questions with HUD, but they've worked it all out. The Home Consortium has committed $810,000 to this project as well. And I believe that Susan Collins, the Executive Director of Medford Community Housing, is in the chambers this evening, and she could speak to the specific details of the project.
Name and address for the record, please.
I'm the Executive Director of Medford Community Housing, and we're located at 32 Cotting Street in Medford.
Do we have any questions for,
That's a
excuse me.
good question. It's going to be 705, 707 Fellsway West, and then they'll be numbered by apartments is what I'm understanding so far.
And is this district appropriately zoned for multifamily housing?
Now, we went through the variance process through the Zoning Board of Appeals, and that was approved.
Excellent. I have no problem with the application, Mr. President. I move for approval.
Councilor Bears?
Thank you, Mr. President. Susan, it's great to see you. Thanks for being here. I'm a very close neighbor at 625 Fellsway West, and I'm really excited that this project is moving forward. And I also just want to thank Danielle Evans. It's great to see that this funding is not sitting in the housing reserve, but is going to the essential need of approving more affordable housing in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Morell?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Susan, for being here. And remind me, it's been a while since I've seen the plans for this, but it is 3 units within a multifamily, correct? It's not.
Yes, so it's a separate structure with an attached breezeway to the existing 2-family.
Okay, and this has been, as you said, this has been in the works for quite a while.
Yeah, my hair is getting whiter and whiter as I've gone through. So yes, it's been quite a while.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mr. President.
Councilor Marks?
Thank you, Mr. President, and I want to thank Susan for all her work in our community. You do great work, you and the community housing group. Susan, roughly, how many affordable units have been created through CPA funds to date?
This will be the first one that I'm aware of.
So these are the first 3 since we enacted CPA, Community Preservation Act. And these are the first 3 affordable units.
Right,
that
we
have come
applied
online.
in the funding, the first funding round for this project.
First funding. Roughly, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but how many affordable units have been created over the last 3 years in the city of Medford? Do you have any idea?
Through our organization or through?
Yours, and if you happen to know the city
Oh,
numbers? That would be
well,
great.
That's kind of a tough question, and just for another projects, because there's private development, and then we are, as far as I know, the only ones doing strictly affordable units. All the units here will be affordable.
Okay. So how many is your organization, Susan?
So we did 2 for Boston Ave through a co-development with West Medford Baptist Church. We've purchased 2 condominium units, and we have a 2-family, and then these 3 units.
Excuse me, if you could speak into the mic, so
Sure.
everybody can, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Thank you.
So we did 2 with a joint partnership with the West Medford Baptist Church, and we have 2 condominiums, and then we purchased a 2-family.
Okay.
So-
And where are those located, Susan?
So the 2-family with the West Medford Baptist Church is on Boston Avenue. We have a condominium unit at 297 Main Street. We have another condominium at 305 Riverside Avenue, and then the 2-family at 705, 707 Fellsway West.
Okay, and where was the previous one? I didn't get that. Prior to the
305 Riverside Avenue. It's a
305
condominium.
Riverside Ave.
Mhm. And then these 3 units, hopefully.
Right. And does your organization look at property location when we establish affordable housing in the community? Are we looking to make sure that every neighborhood gets affordable housing and they're not just centralized in certain areas?
Right. If you look at our portfolio, we are spread across different neighborhoods in Medford. So it is a priority of us to be in different neighborhoods. They're smaller projects. We try to make them fit into the community, and we want them to be part of the neighborhood for families and children and going to school. So we feel that smaller projects are, more beneficial to families. Especially with the children, being able to be part of the neighborhood and develop friendships and.
So that is a
Resources.
factor you look at, location,
Yes,
to make
yes.
sure they're dispersed throughout the community.
And also geographic equity, so that they're not all centered in one area.
Right, right. Thank you very much. Appreciate your work.
Council Falco.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you very much for all your hard work on this. Can you talk a little bit about the timing of this, as far as when people would actually be living in these units?
Sure. So we'll start construction. The maximum we're expecting is 12 months.
Mhm.
During that process, we have to go through the state local action unit application. And so we have to go through that process once we hopefully get the funding. And then we will start the lottery process. Usually we do it about 6 months out before completion. And the reason for that is we don't want to lose people that maybe would qualify and then could drop out, so we try to do it as close as we can to the completion.
So that'll be 12 months from right around now?
Hopefully.
Okay,
Hopefully, yeah.
perfect. And as far as is there designated parking for these units, or is it?
There's on-site parking, there's street parking. They're right on 28.
Okay.
Yes.
Great, thank you very much.
Sure.
Any further discussion? No, on the motion by Vice President Knight, seconded by. Seconded by Councilor Marks. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Bears.
Yes.
Council Falco. Yes. Vice President Knight.
Yes.
Council Marks.
Yes.
Council Morel.
Yes.
Council Scarpelli is absent. President.
Passes 2-1, 525, offered by Council Morel. Be it so resolved that the City Council advance discussions on Resolution 20-078, the proposed polystyrene ban first brought before the council in February 2020. Council Morel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, as it says, this came before the council, was voted into committee of the whole shortly before the pandemic. Obviously, because the restrictions of the pandemic and other things like the plastic bag ban being temporarily lifted, this was kind of put on pause. Of course, the detriment of polystyrene packaging does not stop for the pandemic. And of course, because of increased takeout, this amount of waste has increased. So I know there's a number of students here that can speak on it. I'm just asking for this to be advanced, moved to committee of the whole, so that we can bring all parties interested to the table and have a great conversation around this and see how we could possibly move forward. But I'd also want the students who came out to have a chance to speak when they can.
Thank you. Was somebody let's speak? Good evening. Name and address for the record, please.
Ellie Hunt, 41 Wasson Street. I am here on behalf of the community and the CCSR, which is the Center for Citizenship and Social Responsibility, a Medford Public Schools organization focused on student leadership and making the community a better place. We are sponsored by the Crystal Campbell Community Betterment Project and the Cummings Foundation. And with me are more students from the CCSR and other community members who are in support of the limiting use of polystyrene. So I came before the committee February 2020, which was about 2 years ago, with this Medford High graduate Jules Franks. And we spoke on the detrimental environmental effects of polystyrene, also known as styrofoam. At that meeting, this effort was approved to move forward and referred to a committee of the whole. Due to the pandemic and the unfortunate timing, that committee was never held, and this motion was never moved forward. So I'm here today to bring forward and remind you all of our support on our petition. There's 1,223 signatures supporting this. We hope to limit the use of styrofoam citywide. Doing so will benefit the environment and our community. One of the main prior concerns of this was the impact on the Medford Public Schools because of the styrofoam trays used at lunches. As of right now, all Medford Public Schools except for Medford High are using reusable trays. And there is a city grant for a commercial dishwasher and reusable trays for the Medford High that the city has acquired. So that should no longer be a factor in this decision. We are here because we can't let this sit forever, and we would respectfully request that you hold a meeting to address this issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do you have any questions?
Do we have any questions for the young lady? Thank you. And if you could also bring in the Chamber of Commerce in this, where they represent many businesses that use this product, would be, if you want to link them in with your program, that'd be great also.
Okay,
Okay? Thank you very much.
thank you.
So do we have a motion on the floor? We are on the motion by Councilor Morel to refer to Council Committee of the Whole, seconded by Councilor Falco. All those in favor?
Aye.
Sorry?
Well,
It's gonna,
I-
we're going to.
Yeah, move to,
It's
yeah,
in committee.
send a committee, yeah. It's
already
already,
in
but
committee.
yeah, have a meeting on it and I'll do urgency.
Yeah. Okay. So on the motion by Councilor Morel, seconded by Councilor Falco. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Councilor Marks, you had something under suspension.
Residents here that would like to speak under public participation.
Under public participation. Would anyone like to speak under public participation? Good evening. Name and address for the record and the topic you'll be speaking on.
My name is Brianna Durham. I live at 105 Brookings Street. And I'm here to speak about the administrative leave of Michael Durham. Good evening, President Carbiello and members of the Medford City Council. My name is Brianna Durham. My husband is Medford's Veteran Services Director, Michael Durham. I thank you for your attention and ask that you listen to me not as a wife, even though I am proud to be Mike's wife. But if you hear my words simply as a wife, it would demean my words and it would demean me. It would be like patting me on the head and saying, "Thank you, little girl." Instead, I ask that you listen to me as an independent woman. Listen to me as a resident of Medford who wants you to know the truth. First, the wage issue. At Mike's budget hearing, every one of you were told by the former chief of staff that the city paid the so-called chief people officer for work that was done by Mike during the fiscal year that ended in 2020, in July of 2020. This has never been corrected, and Mike has never been paid in full. But Mike never cared about the money. As usual, he only cares about what's right. What you don't know is that about 1 month ago, Michael made a public records request to the city asking for documents. In particular, a document from October 2020 that we feel shows the city knew that the payments made to the chief people officer were fraudulent. The city has refused to produce the record twice, and this has left Mike with no alternative but to have his lawyer request that the court order the city to release the public record. As to veterans benefits, every one of you know Mike has spoken out repeatedly about the administration's policies that will result in reducing veterans' preference in civil service hiring. You may also know the mayor, in a video that she released online, called Mike a liar. Not one to be deterred, in early September, Mike spoke out publicly at a veterans benefits rally against this discrimination. He was exercising the very right of free speech that he defended at the risk of his own life. What you may not know is that the Chief People Officer on behalf of the City of Medford is scheduled to speak at a State Commission meeting on September 24th, 2021, when it continues its discussion of veterans benefits in civil service. For many weeks, Mike has been asking the Chief People Officer to share what he intends to say at the meeting. The Chief People Officer has never once had the courtesy to respond to Mike. Last Thursday afternoon, Mike saw the Chief People Officer on the second floor of City Hall. It was right after Mike had finished some ticket hearings. Mike asked him to share what he intends to say at the meeting. The Chief People Officer refused to do so, saying he should ask the mayor, and slammed the men's room door in his face. Mike did as he was directed and went right across the hall to the mayor's office in the outer office where the secretaries sit. The mayor's door was open, and the mayor was at her desk at the other end of the office, away from Mike. Mike asked her if she could share what the Chief People Officer was going to present at the civil service meeting. The mayor refused to speak to him, saying that he was represented, and slammed the door as she retreated into the Chief of Staff's office. Mike immediately filed a written report with the city solicitor describing how the refusal of the mayor and the Chief People Officer is negatively impacting his ability to do his job as Veterans Director. This was his fourth hostile workplace complaint. On Friday morning at 8:30 a.m., Mike emailed this council once again, raising the matter of payments made by the city to a person who did not do the work. No one disputes that the work was done entirely by Mike. 4 hours later, Mike was ordered to go up to the interim Chief of Staff's office and was placed on administrative leave and told that he had to have a fitness for duty examination. He was told that this was not a disciplinary matter, but he was being banned from all municipal buildings. This was done even though Mike's behavior at the meeting was described as being the perfect gentleman, very professional, and extremely polite by the two police officers that the mayor had called to City Hall to walk Mike down to his office and out of the building. Both officers have also said to Mike's lawyer that there was no need for them to be there. There have been no incidents to warrant such actions on the mayor's part. In my opinion, this is not a personnel issue. It is retribution against Mike for reporting an injustice. And it is an attempt to silence Mike for being honest. The mayor is using a vicious stereotype that veterans are imbalanced and violent to smear the reputation of a good man, a kind and caring professional who has served his country, who serves the veterans and their families, and who serves this city. The collateral damage to the administration's vile and depraved action against Mike is that the veterans and their families will not be receiving the assistance that they need and deserve. There are some words that each of you need to be reminded of. They were said at Mike's budget hearing. Councillor Knight said, "Mike is doing a great job. As department heads go, he is at the top of the list." Councillor Marks said, "Mike has taken this position to a different level." Councillor Morrell said, "Mike has done a tremendous amount of work for a one-person office." Councillor Scarpelli said, "My question is, how do we make sure someone as valuable as Mike stays? If only we could clone Mike." Counselor Falco said, Mike is doing a fabulous job. Counselor Beer said, Mike's budget doesn't reflect the millions of dollars that he has raised to help veterans. The amount that it has increased is truly impressive. Councilor President Carviallo said, Mike is doing a great job for veterans and for the citizens of this city. Even former Chief of Staff, David Rodriguez said, I've never seen someone step up like Mike. Because each of you said these words, you know that Mike did not abandon his job. He would be on the job this very minute if not for politically motivated smear campaign falsely dressed up as administrative leave. Here are the next words that I respectfully ask this council to say in a formal vote. Be it resolved that the mayor of the city of Medford immediately rescind her order of administrative leave for Michael Durham and return him to his position as Veteran Services Director in the city of Medford without restriction. Thank you.
Edward Linehan, 64 Forest Street, Medford, Mass. I'd like to thank this council for letting me speak tonight. I am a U.S. Navy veteran from the City of Medford's Department of Public Works for over 37 years of service. I come here tonight to speak on the issues concerning veterans of this community, the Veterans Department at City Hall, and issues pertaining to our Veteran Service Officer. The administration has some concerning failures in terms of flag etiquette, procedures at public events, and veterans memorials. They failed to apologize for any of these discrepancies and furthermore continue to assault on veterans by undermining veterans benefits with a civil service veterans bypass request to the state. They refuse to admit that they illegally screened out Medford residents who apply for city employment, or that selective service request would be bypassed. Dozens of non-resident veterans, creating a precedent for our hiring policies to bypass veterans' benefits forever. The diversity director, who will be appearing to speak on veterans' benefits to the State Civil Service Commission this month, refuses to let veterans know what this administration will state. The veterans want to move, this administration wants to move diversity in another direction in this city. The alleged hostile work environment forced a female minority department head to leave her position. It also put the director of our Veterans Department, who is a disabled Army combat veteran, on paid administrative leave. This action shuts down our Veterans Department that provides emergency support to veterans and widows in our community. The administration has discriminated based off sex, race, and veteran status over the last 8 months. What protected group is next to be discriminated against in the guise of diversity? Is this administration thinks by putting the Veterans Director on administrative leave can silence the veterans community? You are mistaken. Thank you.
Good evening. Name and address for the record, please.
Betsy Lister, 12 Ross Street. Thank you very much, President and council members, for allowing me to speak. I'm sorry. COPD, I have to take this down so I can speak. I was working with Michael Durham. He's a longtime customer of mine, and I've known the whole family for a number of years. I want to call him a gentle giant. I'm the wife or ex-wife of 100% PTSD Vietnam veteran service-related disabled. We divorced in '94, and in 2005, I took him back so I could care for him and become his caretaker. In the past 2 years, he's had 7 episodes that I have saved his life. And one was yesterday when I had to call 911 and have an ambulance come and rush him to the VA in West Roxbury. I was working with Michael Durham to try and get my husband situated in a VA facility because I am not in a position to care for him anymore because I'm not a nurse and I don't have medical expertise. I saved him from a stroke 2 days after Christmas last year. And then after COPD, he got AFib, and now he had PTSD, now COPD, AFib, and now a pacemaker. And it's very difficult. And now you've removed the one person that could have helped me. He's a gentle giant. He's a very caring individual. And I just think it's a disservice. And I have to say, I and other people in this community are extremely fed up that it seems to be rules for thee, but not for ye. Because it seems like the mayor can go protest at a church, but the veterans officer can't protest in front of City Hall. This is not our America. This is not our city of Medford, and we don't want to stand for this anymore. We've had it.
Thank you. Good evening. Name and address for the record, please.
John Petrola, 61 Locust Street. Listen, I'm just here. I mean, I think everyone wants to know what's next. What are we going to do here? No, I'm not up here to defend Mike. He doesn't need me to defend him. Everyone knows who he is. Everyone knows what he's doing. And what's next? That's it. What's next? What are we going to do about this?
Thank you. Any further discussion on this matter? Council Falco.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank Mr. Durham for coming down tonight. Thank you for coming down to speak to the council. I'm sure these last few days have not been easy on you, your husband, or your family. The most progressive value in the foundation of actions and relationship is the truth. Without it, we can't possibly move forward to the goal of working together to build a new and vibrant Medford that we all desire. I've worked with Veteran Services Michael Durham closely during my time on the City Council. Mike has repeatedly served the many needs of our veterans with compassion and professionalism. That is the truth. I have witnessed the dedication that he brings to his position on a 24/7 basis. That is the truth. I've heard him and I'm sure you have too, to be unafraid to speak out when he sees an injustice. That is the truth too. I stand with Mike Durham, who has stood up for so many. There's one more truth, and that's that our city cannot afford to lose yet another one of its best public servants. We lost a great one just a couple of months ago with Alicia Nunley Benjamin, a woman of color who left our city after alleged complaints of racism, sexism, and a hostile work environment. This must come to an end. Our employees must be valued, recognized, and respected for their hard work. Over the past few days, I've been stopped walking through Medford Square. I've been called on the phone, and I've heard numerous all positive stories about Michael Durham and all of the hard work that he has put in, all of the veterans that he has helped, all of in some of them during the most trying of times. It might be paperwork, it might be, I talked to someone recently whose husband was a veteran, and he had passed away, and Michael helped with the burial and whatnot. Michael has always been there for the community. I did say during the budget hearing, he's fabulous, and he is. He's a nonstop, constant worker that gets the job done. And everyone I've talked to, everyone that I met along the way loves Michael. He's probably one of the finest people you ever want to meet. He's always giving back. He's served his country, he's served his community, and he's always been there for the veterans of our community and anyone else that needs help. So thank you for coming down. And I support Michael Durham 100%. He's one of the best we got.
Mr. President, thank you.
Vice President Knight.
Mr. President, thank you very much. I too stand by the comments that I made at the budget hearings. Mike Durham, when it comes to department heads, is tops of the list here in the city of Medford. But he's more than just a department head, you know, he's a person, he's a husband, he's a father, he's a veteran, he's someone that's served the public diligently for his whole professional career. And for this personnel matter to be played out publicly like it is, as really nothing more than what I can see as a tool for politics in the real smoke and mirrors game. I think it's sad, Mr. President, and I'm afraid we're going to lose him. I'm afraid we're going to lose him because we're not showing the respect that he deserves. And that's the bottom line. Everybody behind this rail does a lot of good every day. Mike Durham does far more than we do. He's touched the lives of hundreds and thousands of people here in this community and beyond through his service and through his work on behalf of veterans. I've never seen such an outpour of support for an individual department head going through such a situation in my 20 plus years in government. And it's a testament to the work that he does and the person that he is. And quite frankly, I stand with Mrs. Durham. I think he should be reinstated. There's no reason why this is playing out the way it is. I can't see any way that this is the appropriate course of action that's going on right now. Mike should be working, just like he has been. Mike should be working just like he has been every single day. And, you know, I think that one of the things that people forget is that as a public servant, Mike goes to work every day to help people. And now it's time for us to help him. So. I certainly have no problem requesting that the administration reinstate Mike Durham to the position of Director of Veteran Services post haste, and I offer that in the form of a motion.
Thank you. And if I could say something, I'm the chairman, the subcommittee chairman of the Veterans Commission, and I've worked with Mike from day one. And Councilor Knight is right. Job of the government is to help people. And Mike's done nothing but help people. Him and I have gone out during the holidays, delivering food to people's homes, doing other things. So the man's job is helping people, and that's what he does every day when he comes into this building. And I want to see him back in here, continuing to help the people and the veterans of Medford. So we have a motion on the floor.
Mr. President.
Councilor Marks.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank my colleagues for their comments. I want to thank Mrs. Durham. I know that was extremely difficult. And from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for appearing before us tonight. Mr. President, when Mike Durham was asked to leave the building, his last request when he was being escorted out by 2 police officers was that I have a a veteran coming in next Tuesday that faces homelessness. And in addition to that, may be suicidal. And I want to make sure, if I'm not in that office, that there's someone there that has the whereabouts and knowledge to address her concerns. And I think that speaks volumes, Mr. President, about his character and about a man who is committed to his job over anything else. And I think that's what leads us to where we are right now. And I always like to simplify things, right? Because you hear a lot going, who said what, who said this, is this politically motivated, so I like to simplify. So it's my understanding, we had, and it could be anyone, we had a city employee who was a whistleblower say, I believe there's some wrongdoing going on at City Hall. Right? An employee. If you had a private business and someone stepped forward, you'd shake their hand and congratulate them and say, thank you for bringing this to my attention. And this particular employee, Mr. President, didn't just throw out accusations, but line them up with facts in which he sent to the administration, in which he sent to this council, time after time after time, Mr. President. And to date, I won't speak for my colleagues, I have yet to receive any information that this council has requested on this specific allegation, Mr. President, or the allegation that was mentioned by the city employee. I've yet to receive one iota of information. Maybe the city administration's still working on that, Mr. President. I don't know. But to me, you don't vilify an employee who's standing up and saying there's a wrongdoing, there's a potential wage theft, whatever you want to refer to it as. Immediately, the administration should have looked into it and came out with a finding. And we wouldn't still be discussing this, Mr. President. But instead, the administration sought to take a whistleblower, and the federal government, like I said, they praise whistleblowers. They compensate whistleblowers. In the city of Medford, they give you the perp walk outside, and they ask you to go for a psychological exam if you're a whistleblower. That can't continue to happen in this community, because it's sending a lousy message, Mr. President, to other potential whistleblowers, other potential employees, other potential residents that want to come forward and say, you know what, I think there's something happening here. But you know what? I'm not going to say anything, because remember that poor Mike Durham, what they put him and his family through? I'm going to keep my mouth shut. And that's a lousy environment to work under. So I would ask, Mr. President, and I agree with my colleague, that really we need to find out what's going on regarding the allegations, Mr. President. This is one of several. What's going on with the allegations? We haven't received an update. And I would also ask, Mr. President, as my council colleagues both asked, that might be reinstated as well. Because as far as I'm concerned, if there's no employee action, which the letter I read stated that the city of Medford did not put Mike Durham on any type of corrective action, but they did tell Mike Durham, you're not allowed in any municipal buildings in the community. They did tell him you can't talk to any city employees. So I don't know how you put someone that's not on corrective action and tell them they're not allowed in a city building and not allowed to go to a parent-teacher conference, which is a city building, Mr. President. I don't know how that happens. To me, I'm not an attorney, but that doesn't sound right, where you exclude someone from a public building that's not on any type of corrective action, Mr. President. So those are my comments. I hope we can get past this, Mr. President. I hope we can retain a person of Mike's character, his integrity at City Hall, because that's the type of integrity and character we need. That's what we need, Mr. President. And, tonight, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but when items don't come on the agenda, so we have an agenda every night, or every Tuesday. So we have an agenda. And if an item comes on under suspension, which means it's not on the agenda, typically the council, like we're doing now, we could talk about it, but we're not supposed to take a formal vote. And that's with any issue. It has nothing to do with Mike's issue, or that's just open and transparent government. So we can't work on things that aren't on the agenda. And people say, wow, gee, I didn't see that on the agenda. How'd the council vote on that? So we can offer that tonight and take the vote next week. And, but that's how this council operates. And it's always been our operation policy and procedure. So I supported 110% of asking that we move it forward tonight and take the formal vote, which is required because it'll appear on the agenda next week for a formal vote. And that's what I would recommend my colleagues do on this, Mr. President. But I want to thank everyone for coming up tonight and supporting Mike on this issue. Thank you.
Vote. Relax. Hold on. Councilor Marks has the floor.
I am good, Mr. President. Thank you.
Name and address, please.
Betsy Lister, 12 Ross Street. I want to appreciate, thank you, Mr. President, council members. I appreciate the rules. What I don't appreciate is the fact that we heard a story that there's a veteran who's going to be homeless and could probably commit suicide. This ring represents 22 kill. For those of you that don't know what it is, it's a ring because it's an organization, a 5013C that represents the 22, I'm sorry, I'm just very upset. 22 veterans a day that commit suicide. And since the Afghanistan issue, it's now up to 26 a day. Every day that Michael Durham is not in his office, another veteran stands in this community to commit suicide. I've seen the rules be broken before. On behalf of everybody here who's clapping and wanting to support the veterans of this community, my ex-husband included, I asked you to please suspend the rules and vote tonight to put him back in immediately if it can be done. Thank you.
Councilor Marks.
Just if I could, Mr. President, because when people come up to the council, they think the council has the final say. So I just want people, I'm all for open and transparency. When the council votes, it's a recommendation. The mayor does not have to follow this council's recommendation. So just so people know, even if there was an affirmative vote tonight, that doesn't mean Mike will be back tomorrow or the next day. It's up to the city administration and the mayor. So no, I just want to be clear. I don't want people to leave thinking once we, I don't want people to leave thinking one thing once we take a vote. So I like to be open and honest and clear. So I just want to lay that out there, that's, and the one thing I didn't state in the speech when Mike mentioned about this particular veteran is that he requested, not only him, but through his attorney, that office be staffed immediately in his absence. And that was a request of the attorney and also a request of Mike Durham. So whether the city administration follows up on that or has someone there, I don't know. There's someone from the administration here tonight that may be able to respond to whether that office is staffed and is accepting concerns from residents. But that may be a good question to ask at this point. Please.
Thank you, Madam Chief of Staff.
Mr. President, members of the council, unfortunately, I cannot discuss confidential
Sorry,
personnel
can you just
matters.
speak up a little bit? I can barely hear.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I cannot discuss personnel confidential matters. I'd like to ensure the council and the members of the community that
Point
we
of
are working-
information, Mr. President.
Point of information. Councilor
I'm
Marks.
not sure what's confidential about whether a city office is manned or not. I don't know where confidentiality, is that office going to be manned or not?
Thank you, Councilor Marks. Thank you, Councilor Marks, for redirecting the question. I appreciate the confirmation of the question. We are actively working. I have personally actively been working with Miss Darlene White in the Veterans Office to ensure that any veteran and every veteran who comes to City Hall for services or needs services in any other way that the city is informed is followed up with in a timely fashion. I have spoken with a veteran for the last 2 or
Point of information, Vice President Knight.
I do believe it's state law that veteran service officers have to be veterans. So unless the chief of staff's a veteran, the veteran service officer work should be performed by the veteran service officer, a member of the veterans organization. I mean, if I'm correct, and you look at the state law, I believe the state law says that no one can serve as a VSO that's not a veteran.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Councilor Knight, Vice President Knight. I am not acting in the capacity of a veteran service officer. I'm actually working with the Veterans Affairs to ensure that we have the work completed. I've scheduled a conference call tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. I have scheduled a conference call tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. to address questions and ensure that one particular veteran that I've been working with for the last 2 days, which Miss Darlene White has been assisting me in working with and ensuring that we get all of the veterans' benefits that that individual is, certainly entitled to. We're working through the process. I am in no way acting as a VSO officer. I am working with the state and going through the proper channels to ensure our veterans are served.
Thank you. Councilor Falco.
Thank you, Mr. President. So do you have a standing daily call with the state to go through any questions that veterans may have? I mean, they shouldn't have to wait to get answers. I mean, is this a standing daily call that you have?
I have been in contact Monday and Tuesday at this point in time, and I have a scheduled call for tomorrow on the matter.
What about Thursday and Friday? I mean, if veterans come in, they deserve to get answers in a timely fashion. If I knew anything about Michael, he was prompt about everything. Everyone had their questions answered in a timely fashion. There shouldn't be a delay with anything here. I mean, there needs to be a process set up where people are getting answers and they're getting them ASAP. I mean, a lot of these are very sensitive situations that time can't wait.
I agree with you, Councilor Falco, and I assure you I'm doing everything in my power. I'm dropping other matters to ensure that veterans are #1 priority. And I will certainly ensure that every call that needs to be placed is placed to make that, to keep that promise. It's just as of importance to me as it is to anyone. No veteran should go without service and without assistance from the community.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
President.
Good evening. Name and address for the record, please.
Edward Lenahan, 64 Forest Street, Medford. I'm sure Darlene does a terrific job and qualified, but Mike Dorn has special qualifications that he's in that office. He has to be there tomorrow morning. It doesn't cut it, a Zoom call. We have to have someone in that office tomorrow for veterans that are going to come in that office tomorrow.
Thank you. Good evening. Name and address for the
John
record.
Petrola, 61 Locust Street. You know, we've been up here before, other issues. It's time to just suspend the rules, okay? Do the right thing, take a vote, and just go from there. But why are we going to wait a week or a day or 24
Point of
hours?
information, Vice President Knight.
Because it's a violation of the open meeting law. and
So
the
the rule-
council can
so
get
if we
fined.
took a vote, it would be a bad vote.
The council can get fined. The council has established rules. The rules indicate that, we're
It
not
just
gonna-
doesn't, open meeting laws, whatever, it just doesn't make any sense.
I mean,
That's
you
all.
gotta.
Unfortunately, it's the law.
You gotta play the game by the rules, John.
I
We can't make them up
understand.
as we
No,
go
no, no,
along.
Adam, I'm not
Yeah.
arguing, I
Yeah.
understand. It just, I don't know all the rules, obviously. But the right thing to do is to suspend the rules.
The rules
Why
are
can't
suspended.
you?
We
We
can't
are under
suspend state
suspension of the
law.
rules.
We're only the Medford City Council. We can't
So wait
suspend
a
the
minute,
state
wait a
law.
minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. You suspended the rules.
We have a rule in place that says
Okay.
that you can't bring items under suspension because it's a violation of the open
Well, I
meeting law.
thought you
It's
had a
state
rule in
law.
place that we can't bring it up because it's not on the agenda.
You can bring it up. You
We
can't
can bring
vote
it
on
up.
it.
Under
We can't
public
take action.
participation, that's why we're talking about it, Jim.
Okay,
We
all
can't,
right,
we just
okay,
can't, we just
okay.
can't vote on it.
So we can't suspend the rules, all right?
The
We
rules are,
can't-
we are
no, no,
talking
no,
under
no.
We
suspension.
They're
can't
not
suspend the state
suspended.
law. We can't suspend the state law because we're the
Councilman is
local
right.
government. Correct.
Right.
That's
Mr.
correct.
President,
And
if
it
I
will be
could,
on the agenda because we
with all,
put it on there
Mr.
already
President,
tonight.
One meeting, please.
if I could, Mr. President. I think what you see is a supportive council here, right?
Correct,
We're
absolutely,
taking
no
it up.
doubt.
We want to follow what the rules, regulations, and state law is. So we want to follow it. We took it up tonight under suspension. It wasn't on the agenda to discuss it.
Okay,
I have no problem voting tonight, to be honest with you.
I know you
I have no
don't.
problem voting tonight. I've done it in the past. But what I'm telling you is, if this council voted 7-0, stood on our heads and spit nickels in the middle,
Yeah,
that's not to say 7-0 do that this is going to happen tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
all
and
right,
even next week after we vote.
all right.
All we can do is make an advisory opinion of the mayor. That's all we can do. It has zero teeth
No, I
to it.
understand all
So,
that.
and I don't mind doing
understand.
it, but I'm just saying, I don't want people to leave here thinking, ha, the council just voted, we're all set. That's not how it
No,
works.
I don't think
Under
anyone's
our
gonna
government. I just want to be clear with people.
We're just,
One meeting, please.
I
The
think-
gentleman has the microphone.
no,
Excuse me, if you'd like to speak at the microphone, you're more than welcome to come up.
I mean, the bottom line is we're just looking for a resolution here or whatever it is.
We all
I
are,
mean,
Joe.
so now we have to wait another week. That's the bottom line. The veterans don't get service and, yeah, it just doesn't make sense. That's all. I understand the rules.
It's the law. It's not the
Not
rules, it's the
disagreeing.
law. Good evening. Name and address of the record, please.
Darlene White, 69.
Excuse me. We have someone, excuse me. We have someone speaking, please. Courtesy to the person at the mic. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry, darling.
Darlene White, 69 Tainter Street in Medford. I am Mike's senior clerk. Since yesterday, I don't even know what to do in there anymore. I'm not going to go into the wage theft because everybody knows what's going on there. As far as the veterans is concerned, there are veterans that are expecting their checks in 2 weeks. I can't do it. I don't have the software. I don't have an associate's degree. I don't have a license. I have nothing on my computer. So eventually, everybody is going to be
Excuse me.
getting calls.
Could we please give the people at the podium some courtesy and not speak while they're speaking? Thank you. I'm sorry again, darling.
I just don't know what's going to happen in 2 weeks when these veterans, 33 veterans in the city, are waiting for their check. I can't issue the check, and the check does not come from Boston. The check comes from the city of Medford. I don't know what anyone's going to do. The best I can do is just forward all calls, all complaints somewhere else. I don't have any help. I don't have the knowledge that Mike has. So I don't know what's going to happen in there.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. Good evening. Name and address of the record, please.
Sean Keegan, 6th Daniel Road. You guys talk about these state laws. but all of a sudden, there's no veterans, disabled veterans, or nothing on the Medford police list. So I don't know what state laws we can't change for the vote, but you guys could change the laws to get veterans on the police list. So I don't know who's in charge of
I'm
completely
sorry,
changing that,
I
but
can't hear what you're saying.
the Medford police list, there's no veterans or disabled veterans. I know, but I know, but I heard you can't change state laws, but you guys can change the laws for that. I don't
We
understand. that.
have nothing to do with that, sir.
So who's in charge of that?
The mayor, just so you know. So it's great to come up, but you should really know that this is not the body that's done that. It's the mayor.
That's fine, but I
Okay.
don't understand why the mayor's not here or she's not on the Zoom call.
You'd have to ask the mayor.
Can't be on the Zoom call, nothing? It's like a big matter, so I don't understand why the mayor's not on the Zoom or TV or anywhere like that. Sean Keegan, 6th at Daniel Road, Medford. No problem. So.
Thank you.
Can we put that on the agenda for next Tuesday, and then hopefully the mayor could be here, and then we could talk about that?
Yeah, well, we're going to put this issue for next Tuesday, absolutely.
Can you add the police veterans list stuff?
That's not our issue, sir. That's what we're trying to tell you.
Okay, so can the mayor come next week, and then we can figure it out?
You'd have to ask her, sir. We can't demand the mayor to be here. Under
City
the
council
city
meeting, there's no
charter.
mayor, I don't understand.
We can't demand she be here.
Makes no sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Betsy Lister, 12 Ross Street. Point of information, just because I'm not savvy about this. If the mayor wants to override all of you for the community, what would be the next course of action for us residents?
Yeah.
Pardon?
Council Knight.
No. People forget who pays people's salaries. We, the taxpayers, are telling this administration, we want Michael Durham back and he deserves to be back. If the mayor overrides your decision,
Well, it's not our decision to make.
I know, I understand, but if the, but what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you guys are all in favor of Michael. You like bringing him back. You want to bring him back.
I think he's a great employee, but we're not. We're not the
I-
administration. We
That's
don't
the
have the power to
point.
hire
So
and fire
my
employees.
question to you is, does everything stop at the mayor? And this is like totalitarian and we have to accept it? That's all I want to know. Or do we have recourse if we, the residents of the community, disagree with the mayor's outcome and we demand a hearing or we demand more?
Ms. Lister?
The employee
Yes.
has rights and the mayor is the appointing authority, right? So if the employee is aggrieved, he has.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is this would have to go to court. That's what it's sounding like. Would it be would it be an issue for a court?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's all I needed to know.
Ms.
Thank you
Lister.
very much.
Council Bears.
Just on the word totalitarianism was used, and I do want to remind everyone here that this is a democracy and the way that you would address this is through an election, and we are currently in an election season. So I just want to put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Bears.
John Sardone.
Good evening. Name and address for the
197
record,
Spring
please.
Street, Medford. Where was the mayor Saturday? Where they had the Krista Campbell motorcycle run. They were all veterans that were in the motorcycle run. Where was the mayor? She never showed up. Where was she?
Thank you. Good evening. Name and address for the record, please.
Andrew Castanetti, East Medford, Mass. Good evening, consigliere councilors. I don't want to be political tonight, but as they say, if you don't get involved with politics, we'll get involved with you, I guess. Our veterans should matter more than any other group in our nation. Because of our soldiers, we still have our republic and our First Amendment right to speak our mind here tonight. Imagine if you can, if you walked just a half mile in their boots to experience the hell they went through to keep our United States of America. When I went to Woodstock, they went into battle. And if I may, I'd like to commend them big time, and please do the right thing for duty and humanity.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor by Vice President Knight that has been seconded by Councilor Falco and has been amended by Councilor Marks. Mr. Clerk, if you can read it back, please, before we can take a vote.
Counselor Knight made a request that the administration reinstate Michael Durham post haste. And Counselor Marks asked for, he actually said, wants to find out what's going on regarding the allegations. The council has received no update and asked that Mike Durham be reinstated.
And that was seconded by Councilor Falco.
Correct. No
Thank
second
you.
by Counselor Falco.
If somebody wants to make that, they can make that.
So, Mr. President,
Councilor Marks.
if I could, because from what I'm hearing tonight, that from the administration, that it sounds like the office is not fully manned at this particular time. That sounds inadequate to me, Mr. President, and knowing the nature of that office and who they service in that office, I think it's only appropriate that we have an emergency meeting to find out more about the function of that office, if it's going to be fully manned right now, Mr. President, and where our veterans are going to be serviced in the interim. Because this may carry out a lot longer than we anticipate. And I think at the very least, we have twofold. We want to get Mike back, but we also want to make sure our veterans are being serviced, Mr. President, in an appropriate manner. So I would also ask that we have an emergency meeting with the administration to discuss the operations of that office, Mr. President, and that it would include the payroll, which our veterans rely on, as well as any other concerns, Mr. President, that veterans may have and approach that office with.
Thank you, Council. So the earliest we could do that would be on Thursday. Oh, excuse me. Hold on. The earliest we could do that under the open meeting law would be Friday.
We'll call for emergency
Okay,
meeting
so
on Friday,
I
Mr.
will,
President.
I'll take care of that. So that for Friday.
Mr. President?
Council Falco.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I may, who do we want at that meeting? The council and
I would ask for the administration, but anyone else have suggestions? I'm open to it.
Okay, so who we having at the meeting?
The council, the city administration,
Council, the mayor?
maybe we'll want to bring in someone from the state, the Veterans Affairs Office from the state. They may be able to answer questions that we may have, as Councilor Knight alluded to.
The city solicitor?
City solicitor, sure.
Okay, so you're making that as form as amended to
I
the
would
first.
make that as a formal amendment, Mr. President.
Also on that. Okay, so, Mr. Clerk, if you could just read back the amendments one more time, so we make sure we're clear.
Council Marks requested that we find out what's going on regarding the allegations because there's been no update from the administration. And he further asked that Mike Durham be reinstated. Second amendment is to call for an emergency meeting, I believe on Friday, with representatives of the administration, Veterans Affairs Office from the state, the city solicitor.
Just a point of information, Mr. President, if I could.
Council Marks.
An emergency meeting has the same requirements as setting up a regular meeting?
According to the clerk, yes, it does. We need 48 hours.
For emergency meeting requires a 48-hour notice.
Yes.
For an emergency.
Yes.
Now that I don't agree with.
No, just more the messenger here.
So that's a state requirement that
According to.
we wait 48 hours when we're having an emergency.
Council Knight,
I have the Attorney General's open meeting law guide here.
if you have a different interpretation, please
What
let
are
me
the
know.
requirements for posting notice of meetings? Except in cases of emergency, a public body must provide the public with 48 hours notice.
That's my
Except in
exact
cases of
thought.
emergency, it says.
I think we can meet an emergency at any given time, Mr. President. So I would ask if we can set up an emergency meeting. We'd like to have all the parties there, so tomorrow or Thursday.
All right, I will see what I can do.
Mr. President,
Mr. President,
Council Falcon.
thank you. And if I may, can we also have Darlene come to the meeting as well? Just,
Darlene.
she knows what's going on in the office, so I think
Thank
it's fitting that.
Council
she's-
Bears.
thank you, Mr. President. I'm wondering what the definite, this legal definition of an emergency is, because I do not want our actions to be challenged going forward if this meeting doesn't have appropriate notice. I think what we all want here is a resolution to happen. If we don't notice the meeting and someone says that's not the right definition of emergency, then what we do may not have any effect.
I will reach out to the city solicitor first thing in the morning when she gets in and to get it,
Thank
make
you.
sure that we are in compliance with everything.
Thank you.
So just for the record, Mr. President, if we can state, the emergency is that the fact that that office, in my opinion, is not properly manned and creates an emergency. Secondly, that we know from the director himself that there was someone coming in this week that had some potential issues that could rise to an emergency level. And that's just one of probably many that we don't know of, Mr. President. So in my opinion, that definitely is an emergency.
Yes, I will reach out to the solicitor at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning and get an opinion, and I will get it right back to everybody on the
Thank you,
council.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President.
As soon as she gets it to me.
Thank you.
So, on the motion by Councilor Knight, seconded by Councilor Falco, as amended by Councilor Marks on twice or three times? Twice. So, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Bears. Yes. Council Falco.
Yes.
Vice President Knight. Yes. Council Marks.
Yes.
Council Morel.
Yes.
Council Scarpelli is absent. President Carviallo.
Yes, 16 affirmative. No, motion passes. Madam Chief of Staff. Hold on one second. If you could hit the button for your mic, thank you.
Thank you. I have the information ready for the council with regard to matter 21548.
Well, we've got to take it off the table,
Oh,
Mr.
we gotta take
President.
up the table first. Hold on.
We'll get to that, Mr. President.
I would move to take it off the table once
Okay.
public participation is
On the
concluded.
motion by Councilor Bears to take 21548 off the table, seconded by Councilor Falco. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. 21548.
Thank
Madam
you
Chief of Staff.
for your opportunity to
If you
come.
want to talk, just wait 1 second, let them get out of the room so we can talk. Thank you, I'm sorry.
No, thank you very much. I want to thank the council for the opportunity to come back to discuss this matter. One of the first questions, Vice President Knight, that you had asked was whether or not these positions were currently in the CAF, in their current CAFs that they are being presented as, and the answer to that is yes.
So,
Yes.
we're looking at Assistant Purchasing Agent CAF 11.
Yes, sir.
And that compensation rate is the existing compensation rate for the incumbent in the position or the incumbent that was in the position before it became vacant.
Yes, Mr. Vice President.
Okay, and that goes the same for the land use planner,
Yes, sir.
the MCM station manager, and the MCM production coordinator?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The other question that was asked from Councilor Falco was the ranges of these positions. I can provide them in either a weekly salary or an annualized salary. Which do you prefer? Thank you, Councilor Falco. The Assistant Purchasing Agent, CAF 11, is a range between $63,544 annualized to $75,680 annualized. I'm rounding up here on the dollar. The Land Use Planner, CAF 12, annualized is a range between $68,254 to $79,766. MCM Station Manager, CAF 13, annualized $73,430 to $87,444. And finally, MCM Production Coordinator, CAF 3, annualized $47,698 to $52,356. And confirming that I will follow up on the question by Mr. Counselor Bears and Counselor Morell. In particular, with regard to other positions that we have currently posted, Counselor Bears and Counselor Morell, to ensure that we have the ranges on future agendas. Thank you.
Everyone satisfied with their questions? Counselor, Vice President Knight.
Are there any employees being compensated outside of their CAF?
I am unable to answer that question at this time. I would need to review the information that I'm reviewing for Counselor Bears to answer that question.
Appreciate it.
Motion to approve, Mr. President.
Okay, and any further discussion? So on the motion to approve by Counselor Bears, second, to take the first reading, that's correct. On the motion by Counselor Bears, seconded by Counselor Morell. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll. Counselor Falco.
Salaries right here, is this what's currently reflected? Is this what's currently reflected in the budget?
Yes, these numbers would be currently reflected in the budget,
So
yes.
if I look at the budget tonight when I go home, I'll be able to see that the MCM station manager, that number should fall be somewhere in that range.
Well, I'm not sure you're going to actually see them because they may be consolidated with other department salaries, but they would be within the number that's presented. If there's only one employee in the department, which I do not believe is the case for any of these, we can certainly find that information and pull up that information through the auditing office, but I don't know if you're going to see it line by line in the budget.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's reflected properly in the budget.
It
That's
is.
Okay, so you're saying it is
Yes.
reflected, okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. The Counselor Bears, seconded by Counselor Morell. Any further discussion? So for this to take its first reading, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Bears.
Yes.
Counselor Falco.
Yes.
Vice President Knight. Counselor Marks. Yes. Counselor Morell.
Yes.
Counselor Scarpelli is absent. President Carviallo.
Yes, 16 affirmative, motion passes.
Thank you, members.
Thank you
of the
very much
council.
for coming up. While we're on suspension, Counselor Falco.
Can we take 21543?
21543.
It's on page 7.
On the paper says. 215, while on suspension, 21543, offered by Counselor Falco, be it resolved that the traffic engineer recommend safety improvements to the intersection of Carding West and North Street in the interest of public safety. Counselor Falco.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've had a number of neighbors contact me about this issue. They might actually be online tonight, and we have a resident here as well that would like to speak on this. And in that intersection of Carding West, North, and Auburn, there are a number of issues going on there with people coming down Carding Street the wrong way, speeding, the lack of crosswalks in the area. So there are a number of issues. I've also received, and I believe everybody on this council has received an email as well that I'll read just now so everybody can hear about the issues. And this here is from people that live in the neighborhood. So, dear city council members, I am writing with the support of 28 neighbors to respectfully ask that the resolution 21-543 that Councilor Falco added to the agenda tonight regarding a traffic study at the intersection of Auburn, West, North, and Carding Streets be approved and moved forward rapidly. Ideally also for the bridge just up the street where Mystic Valley Parkway crosses the river and intersects with Auburn. Because of the way Carding North, West, and Auburn intersect, it is often impossible for drivers coming up one street to have a clear view of the oncoming cars from other directions. Most cars do not come to a full stop at the stop signs, but even if one does, one's view is frequently blocked by either a parked car or just the angle at which the roads intersect. An example is turning left onto North Street from Cotting. It is not a simple four-way stop with two perpendicular streets and requires additional support to be made safe. No speed bumps are in place to force people to slow down or discourage driving up one-way streets the wrong way. There are not sufficient curb cuts for strollers and wheelchairs, and most importantly, there is no kind of crosswalk in any direction. Cars frequently drive up both Cotting and West the wrong way, despite the signage. This person refers to when her husband politely stopped, asked drivers to turn around, that this is dangerous for many of the kids that ride bikes and scooters in the neighborhood, that they're going down the wrong way, they get yelled obscenities, and there's a lot of unfortunate back and forth between the neighbors or the people that are just driving down the wrong way. Parents with kids often discuss how dangerous the street is when we meet at Cummings Park. Crossing these streets with my two children in a stroller feels incredibly dangerous. One has to be hypervigilant, constantly looking in multiple directions to make sure a car can see us and won't zoom across and hit us. The bridge where Mystic Valley Parkway crosses the Mystic River is equally concerning. Currently, there is debris from a recent accident scattered across the pedestrian sidewalk. And once again, the guardrail has been severely damaged in a crash. It seems like these crashes occur every few weeks, making me wonder what factors are making that turn especially dangerous. Lighting, speed, something else, and how can they be addressed? Aside from the risks to pedestrians and drivers, these crashes must be costing the city significantly in repairs every time the guardrail gets fixed, and a crew must come out to ideally clean up. I'm including here multiple concerned neighbors who live in the area and cross these intersections frequently, as we're hopeful a comprehensive plan can be taken up. Thank you for your help and attention to this matter. Gratefully, Sophie Ricks. And she lives on Cotting Street, so she's experiencing this on a daily basis. And then there's also a list of 25 neighbors on the surrounding streets: Cotting, Auburn North, West, Winter Street, Martin Street. So there's a lot of neighbors here that are concerned about this. This has become a very dangerous area to get around as a pedestrian, as a cyclist, and as a motorist. So what I'm recommending is that I believe it worked last time, and I think it can work again, and that is actually an on-site committee of the whole meeting. We did that back last year. I think it was very successful. I mean, as counselors, we actually all went to the site. We were there with the traffic engineer. We talked about the various issues with the neighbors. They're there every day. They experience this every day, and these are major quality of life issues that need to be addressed. So I would ask, Mr. President, if you could set up a committee of the whole sooner than later.
On site,
On-site committee of the whole meeting.
Saturday morning, just like we did in the past?
That works for me. I think that, I feel like when we did that last time, we really addressed a multitude of issues in the neighborhood that we went to. I feel like, we worked together really well on that with the traffic engineer. And I think we can do the same thing down here. Get everybody on the same page. If we could have it at the intersection of Auburn, North Cotting, and West, that would be ideal. There are many issues that need to be addressed. So I would ask that if you could please schedule that committee of the whole meeting. And I know there's a neighbor that would like to speak as well. So we'd love to hear from you.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm Mariana Ducey, 2 North Street. I live right at this intersection. I've been there for 64 years, so I've seen it all. I would suggest if you're going to have a meeting of the whole meeting in that vicinity, you don't do it on Saturday. You do it on Monday to Friday, because that's when a lot of the traffic comes through there. The reason the traffic comes through there at this speed and so forth is because West Street and North Street are parallel to Route 16. So if Route 16 is backed up, people with their GPSs take a detour. They come off of Route 16. 93 is behind you. So they're coming off of Route 16. They take a left on Winter Street, a right on West Street, and they go zooming up all the way to the end of West Street, all the way to the end of North Street, to Broadway and Somerville, and they get back on Route 16 in Somerville. So they avoid about 1.5 miles of Route 16 at a very congested time. Now, it's funny that I'm here tonight because I only learned last night, very late, that this was on the agenda for today, because I was in the process of writing a letter myself. About 2 years ago, I asked Councilor Scarpelli if he could put flashing stop signs on all 4 of these corners to try to slow the traffic down. They ran out of money, so he gave me 2. He put one at the end of West Street and one at the end of Auburn Street where it intersects with North Street. We really need them on the other corners also. The flashing stop signs have slowed the traffic. Some people come to a full stop, but some slow. But the slow is good because they're not speeding all the way through. Okay, the other thing I think we need is, you've mentioned, is the crosswalks, the painted crosswalks that connect the handicap ramps there at all these corners, but they're not connected with a crosswalk. And I think that would be good, especially in the winter, because what happens with the snowplow drivers, they bank the snow on the corners in the handicap walks. And in my case, I have to shovel mine out because they can't see where the handicap spot is. Also, we've got a lot of cars that in the new residents have come in, they're parking on some of the handicap sidewalks because they block the handicap. I had one there parking there for 2 weeks. I had to put a sign on the window to let them know that this is a handicap spot, please move your car. They finally did. But I don't know about speed bumps because this is a very busy area because a lot of cars go to Whole Foods. A lot of cars come off, as I said, Route 16. A lot of people use the North Street Bridge, both delivery trucks and so forth. So it's a very busy area. But what I've done is I've done a map of what I was going to present tonight, actually as part of one of my letter that I haven't finished writing yet. But I've put where I think that the flashing stop signs are, where I think the crosswalk should be. The West Street and the Cotting Street are one way, and the other 2 streets are 2-way. As far as the visual part of it, if you're coming up Cotting Street, you can see the cars to the West Street because there's Leahy Square there. It's a triangular square with a monument there. So it's not like your visibility is blocked that you can't see who's coming up there. So I don't know as a speed bump would be there. But generally what happens, if somebody's coming off of Route 16 or coming down North Street and they want to continue and they start down either West or Cotting and then they realize it's one way, instead of stopping and turn around, they speed to the end to try to get off the road quickly. Because I've talked to people down at the other end where they intersect with Winthrop Street and they say, these cars come speeding down here. I said, yeah, because they figure out it's the wrong way and they just want to get off it quickly. Now, this is funny. I've got a new neighbor that moved into 1 North Street 3 months ago. He happens to work for the city. He works in the park departments, and they were just renovating Cotting Street Park. So he probably has talked to some of these residents because he came back and told me, he said, I'm going to speak to my supervisor, he says, about all that we've seen here, the lack of crosswalks and the cars speeding by and so forth. So maybe some of this that you've heard from the residents is because he's been working in the Cotting Street Park. And if some of these residents have been there and commensurate with him because he's a city employee, thinking maybe that he could help with the situation, maybe this is why this issue has come to bear right now. But anyway, I have a map. If you're interested in the map, you can have the map. And if I suggest that if you're going to have any site inspection, not a Saturday, because it's not that busy, as busy on a Saturday, but it's much, much busier on a Monday to Friday.
We usually do Saturday because
Yeah,
that's when-
Saturday morning is usually a good time for it.
that's when most of the neighbors usually can come to something like that and everybody can give their input. So
Well, you
that's
could
usually
come-
why
you
we
could-
do
you
the
could
Saturday
come,
morning.
But, it's the traffic starts around, when the rush hour traffic starts, around 7:15 in the morning is when I start seeing the traffic going whizzing by my house. So, there it is.
Thank you.
What information, Vice President Knight?
We don't want to get run over while we're out there either.
You won't. You won't. I mean, I've lived there 64 years. And oh, another thing, even though these cars go by, there hasn't been an accident there. So, I mean, people might be afraid that there's going to be an accident. It's probably been 35 years since I've seen an accident there, and that was somebody who came down over the North Street Bridge and lost their brakes and went right into a tree. So as far as a crash or anybody getting injured, there hasn't been any. Close calls maybe, but no injuries. So there it is.
Thank you.
Any other questions? And
Excuse me,
I
ma'am?
mean, I'd be available when you come for your site visit. I can point out all the issues.
I'm sorry, the clerk didn't get your name and address.
Oh, Mary Ann Aducey, 2 North Street, and it's on the paper here that I'm going to give you.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right?
Thank you, Mary.
So on the motion by Council Falco, that we have a committee of the whole meeting on a Saturday morning. I will reach out to the traffic engineer also tomorrow when I'm doing the other thing. And
Do you mind if I just?
I'm
quickly-
sorry,
Yeah, I just,
Council Bass.
I certainly support Council Falco's motion, and I just want to make the point that I think this intersection, it's still set up for two-way traffic. There's West Street used to be a two-way street. It's still organized in that way. And I just think it's a great example of where you have very wide roads and very poorly designed approaches on each street. I think you could create a lot of public space there. You could have benches, you could have grass. There's a ton of space at that intersection that doesn't need to be used by cars, and I think that would make it a lot safer.
Thank you. Council Falco.
Interesting area because there is actually like a small island between those two streets that you really, there's a cut through that can't really be used anymore. Exactly. So there's an opportunity to do a lot there. Mr. President?
Parking on one side.
Correct.
So you really can't create too many islands, too many shrubbery or grassy areas there. So, but you are right. There's an island there,
Yes.
and which is, your visibility is clear because you can see traffic coming up West Street. And as far as the big wide intersection, when people come up Cotting Street to maybe make a left turn onto North Street, is a big, the intersection is big. So you can take a wide swing. So it's not like you're gonna hit somebody. But I think the painted crosswalks might alert people that there's a slow here, you know? So I even said if they could give me a bucket of paint and a paintbrush and a stencil, I'd do it myself, you know? But,
Let's see if we can get the city to
it's a
do it
cheap-
first.
It's a cheap improvement.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yeah.
if I may, is there anyone on the call? Can you see if there's anyone on the call that may want to speak on this? I know there were some people I think that were going to log in.
Mr. Clerk, do you see anyone's hand up?
Yeah, 2 hands.
Where are we seeing hands? Which ones? Hold on. I see 2 hands, I just gotta find the hands. Mr. Clerk, do you see the hands? I think Jennifer Sullivan has one of the hands.
Hi,
hold
can you
on.
hear me?
Hold on 1 second, let me find you. Jennifer, where are you? Okay, who's that? Oh, we have Sophie and Jennifer.
Hi, thank you. I'm just saying thank you to all of you for taking this seriously. And I appreciate Mary. Sorry I didn't get a chance to let you know directly about this because I didn't run into you on the street, but I'm glad you're there representing us as well. And I will look forward to being there on the Saturday morning whenever it happens.
Sophie, can we get your name and address for the record, please?
Sophie Rick, 78 Cotting Street.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. And do we have any other hands up? Miranda, where's Miranda? Okay, Miranda, name and address for the record,
Hi.
please.
Miranda Briseno, 2 Taylor Street.
I live near the intersection as well and just wanted to reiterate the safety concerns, especially my professional opinion as a planner. I can tell that this intersection could definitely use some traffic calming, and traffic calming that could be installed and done temporarily and quickly with paint overnight in the interim to address safety concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca, have your hand up. Rebecca? Rebecca? 1 second, let's get you unmuted. Rebecca, name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. Yes, Rebecca Davidson, 63 West Street. I live very close to the intersection and just want to reiterate some of the safety concerns that have been raised. It's also a challenge because on that Auburn Street, if you were to continue down, there's no sidewalk on one side. So it's super important to have a safe way to cross the street so that you can continue to use the sidewalk safely on the other side. So I really appreciate, as Sophie said, taking this concern seriously and look forward to be a part of any future discussions around this intersection. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else want to speak on this? Councilor Marks.
President, I want to thank Councilor Falco for putting this on the agenda. And I want to thank the neighbors for participating tonight. Mary Ann, every time I see you, you're always there advocating on behalf of the residents of this community. And, you know, it's not just for speeding, the Green Line extension, 5G, plane noise. You've been a great advocate for this community, and I want to thank you for taking the time coming up. One speaker, Mr. President, Sophie, just mentioned, and I agree 1,000%, to take some temporary quick steps in order to alleviate some of the concerns. Because all too often when we request a traffic report or study, to be quite honest with you, they take forever. And then once you get them, they're never acted upon. And I think at least for now, to let the residents know that we're moving on something like we did up in North Medford on Fulton Spring Road, Mr. President. I think basic things like were mentioned, the paintings and you know, low-lying fruit on putting some stop signs, additional stop signs, as Mary Ann mentioned, and things that can be accomplished relatively quickly, I think would go a long way. So I'm hoping when we meet on site that the city move forward immediately on some of these temporary measures. Thank you.
All right, so, any further discussion? No, on the motion by Councilor Falco, seconded by Councilor Morell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Mr. President, just
Yeah.
before we continue, if the clerk could just note in the record, there's like a 60-minute sound that's been going off all night. It's like a clock ticking.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Time bomb. If we could
It's like
just
driving me
ask.
crazy, you know?
Yeah, I'm like starting to lose my mind a little bit. So if we could just see if we could get that addressed.
I asked him about an hour and a half ago what that noise was.
Yeah,
All right.
I feel like I'm watching the intro to 60 Minutes. So
All
thank
right.
you.
All right, so let's go back to the beginning. Motions, orders, and resolutions. That's it. No, that's right. Maybe get a little WD-40 or something. All right, motions, orders, and resolutions. 21-497, offered by Vice President Knight, be it so resolved that the Medford City Council congratulate Jeannie and Len Glyona on the momentous celebration of the 50th wedding anniversary. Vice President Knight.
Mr. President, thank you very much. My dear friend Lenny Glyona and my dear friend Jeannie Glyona just celebrated 50 years of wedded bliss. Many of us know Lenny from being around the hockey rinks and the political circles here in the city of Medford, and many of us know Jeannie for her work in the Medford Public Schools for over 30 years. 30 years in the public schools and 50 years married to Lenny. The woman's a saint. But with that being said, Mr. President, I do wish them the best of luck, and I hope that they have another 50 years of happy, healthy, wedded bliss.
Thank you. Councilor Morell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to echo Vice President Knight and just extend my congratulations to Len and Jeannie. I also thank Jeannie for lending Len to Medford politics so often, which may actually contribute to their success, how much time he spends out of the house helping us all out. So extending the congratulations and wishing them many more.
Thank you. Okay.
Mr. President,
Council Falco.
thank you very much, and I thank Council Knight for offering this resolution tonight. We'd like to congratulate the Leonas as well on their 50th anniversary. Happy anniversary, best wishes. Thank you.
Thank you. What's the best?
Just want to say the same thing. Congratulations to Jeannie and Len on their anniversary, and congratulations to Councilor Knight for scooping Councilor Morell on this.
Thank you. Thank you. So on the motion by Vice President Knight, seconded by Council Morell, all those in favor? Motion passes. 21500, offered by Vice President Knight. Be it so resolved that the Medford City Council extend a happy 85th birthday to Jack McDevitt. Vice President Knight.
Mr. President, thank you very much. For those of us who went to Medford High back in, pre-2010 years, we would know Jack McDevitt as a law teacher. And he was one of the most influential teachers that I had in my career as a student in the Medford Public Schools. And recently, Jack celebrated his 85th birthday. Mr. McDevitt is a proud graduate of St. Clements High School. And upon his service in the United States military, he went to Boston College, where every first period law class, he got to tell us about how Boston College was the greatest university in the history of man. I think the city clerk agrees with us there. I just always asked him if it was because he couldn't get into Merrimack, but he never thought that was very funny. But with that being said, Mr. President, Jack's a great guy. He's someone that had touched the lives and the hearts of many high school students across his time and tenure as a teacher in Medford Public Schools for over 40 years. He's someone that certainly impacted my life, and I wish him a happy 85th birthday. I'm glad to see him enjoying his retirement and getting many, many years out of it.
Thank you. Council Falco.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also want to thank Council Knight for bringing this resolution forward. It brings back a lot of memories. Mr. McDevitt, I had him for long when I was at Medford High School many years ago. And I still fondly remember him saying every Friday, root for the Mustangs, root for the Eagles, and root for the Patriots in that order. So I just want to wish him a very happy birthday and wish him well.
Thank you. And personally, I say I'm a student of Jack McDevitt. At 67 years old, I see him all the time. I still call him Mr. McDevitt. Now, happy birthday, Mr. McDevitt. Okay. So on the motion by Vice President Knight, seconded by Council Falco. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 21501, offered by Vice President Knight, be it so resolved that Medford City Council extend its deep and sincere condolences to the family of Daniel Bates on his recent passing. Vice President Knight.
Yes, Mr. President, Mr. Bates passed away recently after a long battle with illness. We all know the Bates family here in the city of Medford. Dapper, Michelle, Sean, and Mikey have been fixtures in the hockey rinks and Little League fields across this community for a number of years. Very large family. The Bateses, the Howes, the Rileys, all very dedicated Medfordians with the blue and white running through their veins, but no more so than Big Dan. Mr. President, he will be sadly missed. He was a dear friend, a consummate family man. And when he wasn't working, you could find him carting his kids around to hockey rinks or sitting in the outfield watching Little League games. One of the greatest human beings I've had the pleasure to meet and call a friend. And I'm sad to see him go. So my condolences to the family. And I ask my council colleagues to join me in extending these wishes.
Council Falco.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also want to thank Council Knight for bringing this forward to the Bates family has been very instrumental through the years in our community in their various volunteer efforts. And I just wanted to offer my condolences to the family. Thank you.
Hey, Council Marks.
President, I think Council and Vice President Knight hit the nail on the head. A true family man, a great guy, take the shirt off his back, if someone needed it. And raised a heck of a family. And as Council Vice President Knight mentioned, he was probably one of the most active fathers that I've ever seen. In addition to all his other roles, he was at every sporting event possible, rooting his children on, as well as the Medford athletes. And he will be sorely missed.
Thank you. And personally, myself, to go to condolences to the Bates family, longtime friends of mine. And again, all those days at the rink, we'd see each other. Condolences to his family. We have a couple of other ones, so we can do them all at once. 21518, 21519, offered by President Caraviallo and Council Falco. Be it resolved that the Medford City Council send its deep and sincere condolences to the family of former Medford Fire Chief Larry Sands on his recent passing. Council Falco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thoughts and prayers to former Medford Fire Chief Larry Sands on his recent passing. He was a member of the U.S. Marine Corps, Korean War veteran, Vietnam veteran. He was appointed to the Medford Fire Department in 1965, became chief in 1984, and was a longtime parishioner at St. Francis of Assisi Parish, and volunteered many hours there. And just wanted to offer my condolences to the family. Thank you.
Thank you. And for my own condolences to Larry's family. And I got to know him over the years and on his recent passing. So, and we have another one.
Mr. President, if I could on that?
I'm sorry, Council Marks, I couldn't see you over there.
That's all right. Mr. President, I want to thank both you and Council Falco for putting this on, but Larry was a true professional in this community. You can usually gauge a person by how much his colleagues loved him. And even though he was chief, and that's a difficult job, and you make decisions that, may not be, favorable to everyone, he was always well-respected, well-admired, Mr. President, and he ran a fire department that was second to none. And I always remember that about Chief Sands, and he will be sorely missed, Mr. President.
Thank you. All right, 21522, offered by Vice President Knight, be it so resolved, the Medford City Council extended deep and sincere condolences to the family of Stella McParland on her recent passing. Vice President Knight.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you very much. South Medford lost one of the greats, Stella McParland, mother to my dear friend Joe McParland, also known as Norton, in the South Medford area. We all see Norton working down at Della Russo's funeral home as one of the ushers there. Just a great guy. He works with Freddie during the day and also for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts at night in the Department of Revenue. And Stella is part of that Stearns Ave crew of Ansaldi's that live down on Stearns Ave. And she recently passed away after a long struggle. And she will be sorely missed. Just a beautiful woman. She raised a great family. And we're sad to see her go. So with that being said, Mr. President, I ask my council colleagues in supporting the resolution.
Council Marks.
Council Vice President Knight for putting this on. I didn't find out until after the fact, Mr. President, but I grew up on Stearns Ave. And let me tell you, it was, growing up there was such a tremendous place to live. Everyone knew everyone, Mr. President. Everyone was over everyone's home. You were treated like family from every home on the street. And if you weren't doing the right thing, as you probably remember, Stella or Mrs. Insaldi or Mrs. Freitas or you name it, the D'Onofrios, they were out there and they'd let you know, the Amaris, they'd let you know what you were doing and what you were doing was wrong. And it was just a great place to grow up, Mr. President. And Stella was a sweetheart of a woman, and she was a protector of the neighborhood. And, she will be sorely missed, Mr. President. Thank you.
Okay, we have one more. 21524, offered by Vice President Knight. Be it so resolved that the Medford City Council sends their deep and sincere condolences to the family of John and Jackie Moulton Jr. on his recent passing. Vice President Knight.
Mr. President, thank you very much. It seems like it's been a tough summer for South Medford because Jack Moulton was also a South Medford legend, and he's been taken from us too soon. He's the husband of one of our elections officers, Mrs. Moulton, father to John and Kim, two of my close friends, passed away after a long public struggle with illness, Mr. President, and I was sad to see him go. So I'd just like to extend condolences to the family in this time of need and ask my council colleagues to support the resolve.
Thank you. Okay, if we could rise for a moment of silence for all these fine people who passed away. Okay, 21502, offered by Vice President Knight. Be it so resolved that an installation of a blinking stoplight be implemented at the intersection of Central Avenue and Park Street. Vice President Knight.
Mr. President, thank you very much. I find this to be a rather self-explanatory resolution, very similar to the concerns that we have on West Street and Cotting Street and North Street. We also share these concerns here at Central Ave and Park Street. As we're all aware, those are two very long, straight roadways that intersect with one another. And over years and time, they've turned into somewhat of a small raceway. There is a need for some traffic calming measures and some mitigation there, and I ask my council colleagues to support the resolution.
Thank you. Council Falco.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd also like to thank Council Knight for bringing this resolution forward. Pedestrian safety is always key. This is a highly populated area with a lot of kids that walk to and from school, to the Roberts Elementary School and to the Andrews and McGlynn schools. So I think this is definitely, this is actually definitely in favor of this, and I'd like to move forward on this as soon as possible. So I would second the motion.
Thank you. So, Council Bears.
Thank you, Mr. President. If my colleagues don't mind, I was just down in this area over the weekend. If I could add an amendment also that traffic calming or a speed bump be installed around the address of 94 Otis Street for similar reasons.
94 Otis?
Yeah.
So on the motion by Vice President Knight, seconded by Council Falco, as amended by Councilor Bears. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 21516, offered by President Caraviallo and Vice President Knight. Be it so resolved that the Medford City Council commend and congratulate Amici's Pizza on their 30th anniversary of business in Medford. Vice President Knight.
Mr. President, thank you very much. Congratulations to Dominic and Mario on 30 years of successful business. I feel like it was just yesterday when I was a 12-year-old kid walking into Amici's when they first opened, getting a slice of pizza. And since that time, every Friday night for the last 30 years, I've gone there. It's been an institution in my family. I can't tell you, Amici's is just the place we go every Friday night for pizza. Friday night's pizza night. My little brother spent countless hours in Amici's, 10 years my younger. So it's just so funny now when I go in there, Mr. President, with my children, and Ryan and Brendan run behind the counter, and Mario's giving them quarters to put in the machine, just like he was when I was a kid. I think it's just the coolest thing. So, I'm very thankful to have been able to develop such a 30-year friendship with Mario and Dominic down at Amici's, but also very thankful that they've put out such a great product for such a long time that they've made West Medford Square a destination location for the best pizza in Medford. And that's according to Boston Pizza Wars, not according to Adam Knight. But with that being said, Mr. President, I just want to congratulate Dominic and Mario and the rest of the family on such a successful 30 years in business. And I would like to get them a citation at some point if possible.
Thank you. And I echo Councilor Knight's thing. I live in that neighborhood. Get pizza there all the time, and now I get my granddaughter hangs around there with all her little young friends getting pizza in it. So again, I want to thank them for 30 years of business in one spot, and and they've done a great job there. Councilor Bears.
Thank you, Mr. President and Mr. Vice President. And I just want to also congratulate them. I went to elementary school in the area, so I have similar age memories of Amici's, and I just want to say there's nothing more sincere than looking Councilor Knight's eyes than when he talks about pizza at Amici's, and it makes me happy.
Pizza in general.
So I wholeheartedly support this.
All right, so Councilor Marks. Man, we should get one now.
That's great. That's great.
I'll agree on that.
Mr. President, I think the reason why is, when you talk about Dom and Mario, they're a staple in West Medford Square. I don't think you can mention West Medford Square without saying Amici's. And, they provide an excellent product to the residents of this community, and the residents support Amici's because of that. And they're two good guys. They're homegrown guys. And I wish them well, and I wish them another 30 years, Mr. President.
And they're also advocates for everybody in the square also.
They really are.
There's a problem, they're the first ones to come forward. I think Adam and I have gotten enough phone calls from them. All right, so on the motion by Vice President Knight, seconded by Councilor Marks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 21517, offered by President Caraviallo, be it resolved that the Medford City Council commend and congratulate Captain John Conway and Lieutenant Mark Rudolph on their retirement after years of dedicated service to the Medford Police Department. John and Mark, both longtime policemen. They served, both of them have served close to 30 years of service to our community. A lot of retirements in the police department this year. Hard to replace men like that who have pretty much dedicated their lives to public safety. So congratulations to them on their retirement, and hope that we see them around in the future.
Mr. President.
Vice President Knight.
I concur with everything you've said. I think when you look at these two individuals, I read in the paper, I think it was over 70 years of law enforcement experience here in the city of Medford. I wish them both the best. We got very familiar with Lieutenant Rudolph during the budget process when he came up here to speak about the police dispatchers. And I've been very familiar with Captain Conway because he lives down the street from me. And he has the most meticulous yard and the coolest looking fence out in front of his house that you'll ever see. He's quite a outdoorsman, Mr. President, when it comes to maintaining his property. So I look forward to seeing him out there more often when he has more time on his hands now that he's a retiree. So with that being said, I second your motion.
Thank you. It's tough. You go by there and you see all these young men and women there. They're all, in their early 20s. Council Falco.
Captain Conway for the many years of service to our community. When you think about it, 70 years combined, that's a lot of time. And I just want to thank them for their continuous commitment to our community and wish them well in their retirement. Thank you.
No, on the motion.
Mr. President, if I could.
Council Marks.
Thank you, Mr. President. I better put a pillow so you can see me.
Well, he's got that, man, put that light down. I can't see with that light there. All right.
It's me. I'm
Now we can
just
see. All right.
fading into the chair. Mr. President, I want to thank yourself and I think it was just you, actually.
Yeah, it was just me.
That put this on. Lieutenant Rudolph and Captain Conway were truly professionals in this city. I've never heard anyone utter a bad word about either gentleman. They served with distinction for many, many years, an unblemished record, as was stated, over 70 years. And to have an unblemished record in such a position of importance and in this community, I think says a lot about the two gentlemen. And I wish them well in their retirement. And hopefully, Mr. President, from what I'm hearing, retirees will be allowed at some point to come back and do some light detail and so forth around the community. And I hope to see them back again, Mr. President.
I hope we get that paper for us fairly soon. So on the motion, seconded by Councilor Marks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 2-1-520, offered by President Caravella. Be it resolved that the Medford City Council have the Recreation and Park Department have the company that built the bocce courts at 121 Riverside Avenue return and make them official size and put the proper surface that belongs on bocce courts. I want to thank Chris Donovan. Over the week, we had a little bocce tournament down there, but I remember going down there for the opening of it, and there was sand there, and not that I'm a big bocce player, but I've been down the bowl club. I've seen other bocce courts, and it needs to have like clay or some kind of stone that's on there and not sand. And when I questioned the people that day who did it, they said they build bocce courts all the time and they knew what they were doing. So, guess I don't know, but if they could get back there, put that stone dust down there to make them real bocce courts. If they don't know what they need, have them go down to the boat club and see how theirs look. Because those guys play there almost all year round. So whoever's in charge of that, please have them go down there and fix that to make them official bocce courts. Yeah. No, on the motion, seconded by Council Falco. All those in favor? 2-1-521, offered by Council Morel. Whereas the 2-1.
Oh, yes.
5-3-7. Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. We did have Representative Gobble here earlier. If I had known he was here for that, I didn't see that on there.
Yeah, Representative Galvin contacted me, told me he had another commitment, so he couldn't wait through the evening. So,
Okay.
but he'd be willing to come back at another time.
Okay. So, 21 and 21537, we're gonna combine. And whereas the West Medford commuter rail station is currently inaccessible to residents using wheelchairs, walkers, strollers, and other mobility devices. And whereas the West Medford Community Rail Station is identified as a Tier 1 station in need of an upgrade according to the MBTA system-wide accessibility plan, be it so resolved that the Medford City Council send a letter in support of the Commission for Persons with Disability requests to Governor Baker for allocation of funding to upgrade the West Medford Commuter Rail Station. Councilor Morel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, this resolution really covers it, and I also want to make sure that residents have a chance to speak, but Tom with the Commission for Persons with Disabilities reached out to me. They have sent a letter. The mayor has sent a letter in support of this, and really just trying to bring forth the united front so that Governor Baker releases the funding to make this improvement that is much needed. With an at-grade station, the trains are incredibly challenging to use with anyone with a mobility issue and completely inaccessible to many, many people because of this. As I understand, it's been on a Tier 1 priority since 2019, still has not been funded. Work has not, been planned or started. So it's just something that we need to continue to push on to get this funding. I'll let Councilor Falco if he has anything to add and just make sure we hear from the residents.
Thank
Councilor
you.
Falco.
Thank you, Councilor Morel. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm in full agreement with Councilor Morel. This is a project that's long overdue. It should have been done years ago. It's a station that needs to be made accessible. I'd like to see this done as soon as possible. I know I've talked to Representative Garbali recently, and, he took me through some of the funding details, but I think it would be great to get him here to a meeting at some point, or maybe if you could send us some sort of a written response, just giving us an update of where the project is, I think would be beneficial, or possibly committee the whole, if you see that
Thank you.
that's necessary as well.
6 years ago, I had a similar motion on the paper, on the floor. We had a meeting down there with the T, Representative Gabally, Senator Jalen, and I forget, it was Mayor McGlynn back then, Mayor Burke. And the answer they gave was that because of the station, and it's sort of like a grandfather thing there. Once they broke the threshold of improvements, they would have to pretty much shut the whole station down and revamp it to a much more level. And they claimed they had no funding to do that. And that was like about 6 years ago. So again, it is something, and they promised to look, came back, but I thank you for bringing this up again. Councilor Marks.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank Councilor Morel and Councilor Falco for putting this on the agenda. I can remember this when I first got on the council back in 2001. That's how far it stretches back just with me and the request, because that's been inaccessible for at least 20 years that I'm aware of.
Yep.
And we've had, as you stated, officials down there, state delegation, you name it. We've had everyone down there, Mr. President, but very little action. A couple of years ago, there was some aesthetics done to the station itself, but very minor improvements were made. That is a heavily traveled, they come from all over. Just ask the residents of West Medford. They come from all over to use the commuter rail.
Yep.
And it's unacceptable, to be quite frank with you, to have a rail, as Council Morel mentioned, that not everyone can use, especially in this day and age. And I'm hoping that through our diligence and our persistency, like we did with South Street in the intersection of South and Main, we finally got the state to act. And I'm hoping that happens with this issue, Mr. President. And I want to thank my colleagues for bringing it up.
Did you want to speak on this? Good evening. Name and address of the record, please.
Tom Himmel, I live at 16 Maynard.
So what's that address?
Sir, 16 Maynard Street.
Okay.
I serve on the city's commission for persons with disabilities. Thank you to Councilor Morel for putting this motion on. Our commission met with the statewide accessibility department of the MBTA earlier this year, and we learned some of the history that you shared. Thank you for sharing more of it. I'm new to working on this project. I did I have been working with the mayor and with Representative Garbelli. He mentioned to me earlier today that to try to help move us up, we can get try to get some funding for the design of the station. That's something that the MBTA would be receptive to in terms of moving us up on the pecking order. He has included $4 million in the bond bill for that, and then has mentioned with the infrastructure that bill that's pending in Congress, that's kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity to get the funding that's been the issue in getting it funded. They do want to make it fully, they want to fully renovate it to make it fully accessible. I'm told that's like $25 million. I did get news today from the statewide accessibility department that we have been recommended to be included in making that the station accessible, be included in the budget when that funding comes along. And Representative Garbelli has said he would fight for that in the spring to make that happen. I don't think I need to go into why. You guys have already talked about why it is important to renovate the station. It is long overdue, and looking forward to your support to join the mayor and our commission in writing a letter to the governor to hopefully include the funding. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion? Council Bears?
And I just want to thank you, Tom. Thank you to the commission for your advocacy on this. And it is really an essential project. So I'm hoping finally, it seems like maybe all the ducks are in a row to get this done, and hopefully it can start soon. Thank you.
Good evening. Name and address for the record, please.
Yes, sorry, but I just can't speak, I don't think, before, in front of it. My name is Marcia Kierson. I live at 11 Upton Terrace. I was recently appointed to the Medford Commission for Persons with Disabilities, and I'm honored to be a member. I'm going to be personal. I feel like I know some of you pretty well. I've been here before. I was born in 1941. I remember when one of my early memories, my two uncles who served in the armed forces came home, and how the family felt that they came home safe and well. And I have a lot of empathy for families and for our veterans who cannot use the facilities that are open to the public. And I would like to point out that many of them have mobility issues, and that some of the mobility issues, like many of us, do not exactly meet how the ADA might be interpreted. But I will say it's a very broadly written law that includes people who cannot function normally, basically. And that's many, many people. Also, when I was growing up, my mother's father, my grandfather, happened to be blind. And I remember that he needed help to go from place to place. He was not able to do, at that point in his life, although he had been an immigrant and a vibrant person, I'm sure when he was younger, he was no longer able to be independent. He did receive the help he needed. Later on in my life, to me, being blind was somewhat normalized because of my grandfather. I met a very interesting man who happened to also be blind, and we ended up getting married. And part of it was he had a service dog. And we lived near Central Square in Cambridge. He was safe going into the subway with a service dog. And I think that was very important to his safety navigating both the traffic and what, if it had been a platform like the Medford commuter rail, it would have been impossible for him. Later on, he decided not to use a service dog, and it was kind of created a concern about that kind of navigation because of his vision issues. Part of the point that we're trying to make is that this affects a lot of different people in a lot of different degrees of challenge. And so some of the people that we've connected with have complained about curb cuts because they have a child in a carriage and they can't navigate that. I remember personally taking my young son in an umbrella stroller down, I don't know how many stairs to use the subway in Central Square. And I also remember that there was an elevator, I should think it would go in quotes, was at the other end of the platform. And it almost never worked. So I stopped even trying to use it because it was a long walk to the elevator and back with the umbrella stroller and the toddler. And so some of the issues you've heard tonight and we'll probably hear again have an impact on just everybody in the population at different points in their life. Now I am aging and I have pretty significant arthritis. And recently I fractured my wrist, which when you're my age has a cyclical kind of effect. It affects all your functions. So my mobility is even less than it was the last time I was here. And I now have a ramp to my house so I can get in and out easily. Which just points out a difference in my functioning for those of you who were here several years ago. Then and now, my mobility's decreased. My ability to stand for long periods of time has decreased significantly. I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm trying to explain to you why this is such a crucial part of our community to serve many, many people that you would not think of necessarily as being disabled. Or even our counselor who has a problem that's temporary. Could you go? Probably not. So that's my point, besides the wonderful points that Tom Hamill made. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
And thank you all for your service during a challenging time.
Thank you.
And Marcia, congratulations on your appointment.
It was a celebration.
Thank you. Council Marks.
That although Marcia's mobility may have decreased slightly, your wit, your ability to relay your point has not at all. And you were instrumental with the surgical center and the neighbors up there to make sure we got the best possible solution. And I remember your speeches. They were winded, but they were excellent. They were excellent. And I just want to thank you for coming up tonight. I really do.
Council Morrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to add, I want to thank Tom and Marcia for coming out and just the entire commission for the work they do, because these are issues that if they don't affect you, it's so easy to not see because you're not experiencing them. And working on these issues and raising these issues is so important. And what President Caravello said stuck out to me, talking about what the MBTA had said previously about shutting down and making the whole station inaccessible for the work that needs to be done. But for as long as the station's been around, it's been completely shut down. It's been completely inaccessible to a large group of people. So I really hope that now is the time we can actually get something done and make this an accessible station for everyone. Thank you.
if those who remember, it was the Wedgmere station that ended up getting all the money. Their station got completely redone, made it all handicap accessible and everything, and we got nothing out of that deal. So, on the motion by Council Morel, seconded by Council Falco. All those in favor? Motion passes. 2-1-523, offered by Vice President Knight. Be it so resolved, the Medford City Council wish John and Linda Pittarino a very happy 50th wedding anniversary. Vice President Knight.
Mr. President, thank you very much. Linda Pittarino was one of the unsung heroes of City Hall. Works down in the Medford Consumer Commission, helping out consumers file complaints against unscrupulous scammers and the like, Mr. President. But with that being said, just recently, Linda and John celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary, and over the years, I've gotten to know both John and Linda very well. They're a great couple. They're two little lovebirds. You can't miss them. You'll see them at the Little League field, watching little Johnny play T-ball, and I had the pleasure of playing against their grandson this year a couple of times, and to see them there cheering on their grandson is really something else, Mr. President. It's really come full circle for them, and I wish them all the best. But Linda and John are two great people, and they found each other 50 years of wedded bliss, and I wish them 50 more.
Thank you. And if I could I've known Linda and John since elementary school. Back to the old Lincoln Junior High. We went turned over to Kennedy. The Lincoln School. I think they started dating like in junior high school. So they've been sweethearts for many years. And as I've known them both going back to elementary school. They're two wonderful people, and I'm glad to call them my friends. And good luck to them on their 50th anniversary. Yeah, on the motion by Vice President Knight, seconded by Councilor Marks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 2-1-526. Offered by Councilor Morel, be it so resolved that the City Council requested that DCR move forward with much-needed safety improvements, including crosswalks, improved signage on the Mystic Valley Parkway, High Street, near the Mixer Lane, with all due urgency. Councilor Morel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know Councilor Marks introduced a similar paper probably over a year ago at this point. I know sometimes it feels like we're banging our head against the wall, asking for DCR to do anything on the many streets they operate in our city. But I'm responding to requests from a number of residents that have concerns about safety in this area, a need for crosswalks around the Rotary at High Street and Mystic Valley Parkway, similar to what exists in Arlington, which I believe is what Councilor Marks requested. There is now a beautiful, master parkway plan from DCR. Of course, if there's one thing we know in Medford, we have no shortage of plans. It's the action that we really struggle with. I've spoken with Representative Garbali about, he did put in a request for DCR to put in something in the interim, whether it's crosswalks or anything. I think as people are home more, they're noticing how much people are speeding. They're noticing their neighbors as they try to cross the street. They simply cannot. So I'm just asking that we put out, another request to DCR to take some action on this, action before they even start working on the master plan, because we know how long those can take, how long I think can take to actually get funding, but there's a need for immediate safety improvements right now for residents. So that's what I'm looking for here.
Councilor, if I could ask it to amend something that, going home today, I drove by the Craddock Bridge, and I don't know if anybody noticed, but there was two large trees going directly across by the bridge. So if a boat wants to get by there, it is totally impassable. If I could ask you if you put that on there, so the DCR goes down there and gets out of it, because that's a total public safety hazard, especially when you get all the kayaks or anything. But that right now it's totally impassable.
Absolutely.
And Mr. President,
Councilor Bears.
if you're amenable to it, Councilor Morel, I'd also like to just add Mystic River Road to that, basically the same thing that connects with that Rotary A. It's one of the roads that intersects with that Rotary, but there have been issues with that whole stretch all the way up to Duggar Park.
So,
Mr. President,
Councilor Marks.
I want to thank Council Morel for offering this. I've been critical over the last number of years regarding the inaction by DCR, the fact that we have so many state roads in this community, roads in which taxpayers reside on, pay the same tax that any other resident pays, but doesn't get the city services because they're on, quote, a DCR state road, Mr. President. And as far as I'm concerned, that's unacceptable and very difficult conversation to have with a resident. And I believe as a community, and this is no reflection on anyone in particular, but we fall short of the mark regarding holding DCR and the state accountable for anything. And in my opinion, we should be having these meetings, not just with the administration, but with DCR. We should have a standard meeting that we have, because there's enough on our agenda that deals with. I can give a laundry list of items that I'm still waiting responses on, never heard back, that we should have a standing meeting with DCR. And maybe under your leadership, Mr. President, and it doesn't need to include the administration, it could be us with DCR, but I think it's vital, Mr. President, in order to address our constituents. It's one thing to bring it up before the council, but then as Councilor Morell mentioned, the second step is action, right? Lip service and then action. I mean, so I'm always waiting for the action part of it. And it's few and far between. I know many of the agencies are shorthanded, and I understand that, but there has to be better dialogue and communication so we can represent our constituency. So I would ask that at some point, Mr. President.
I will talk to the representatives about doing that.
Maybe if we can brainstorm it, even if we had it once every, quarterly, quarterly, every 3 months, to just sit down and go over what's outstanding, because that doesn't happen.
They
And I'm
are
still
so
waiting on,
unresponsive.
right, I'm still waiting on other stuff from a year and a half ago that residents keep on emailing me saying, what's going on? And, it's just, it's unfortunate because, it gives government, state, city, just gives it a bad name, Mr. President. And I think we're all here to get results.
Thank you.
So I appreciate the fact that this was put on tonight. Thank you.
Councilor Bears.
Yeah, I think, sure, we can go through the representatives, but I think it would be great to have someone from their transportation division working directly with us. I am a resident of a DCR street. We've got a few branches that are dead overhanging, all of our cars in our home, and you call and you don't get a response on that one-on-one basis. I don't get a response. And if I'm not getting a response, nobody's getting a response.
Right.
So I think that's a great idea.
Right, so on the motion by Councilor Morell, as amended by myself and Councilor Bears, seconded by Councilor Knight.
I amended it also, Mr.
And sorry, as amended by Councilor Marks. All those in favor? Motion passes. 21527, 528, and 5529 by Councilor Scarpelli. He's asked that those be tabled. 21530, offered by Councilor Bears, be it resolved by the Medford City Council that we request that the city administration urgently prioritize the placement of rectangular rapid flashing beacons for pedestrian safety at the crosswalks across Winthrop Street and at the intersections of West Street and Summer Street. Be it further resolved that the city administration report back to the council on additional pedestrian and bike safety measures that can be implemented on Winthrop Street. Councilor Bears.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm tempted to say here we are again, but these are constant issues in our community. We have roadways and sidewalk areas that are really unsafe for a lot of different modes of travel, including people in cars. I was in this area a couple weeks ago, and a resident told me that their child, and they've put a letter out. This is information that I think they might be sending to us as well at some point. Was in the crosswalk, was hit by a vehicle, flipped up into the air, and luckily landed on their hip and not their head. And this is the third incident in the area in recent times. There's another one is the reason that there's now the bollards and the repainted crosswalk, which we also approved. I requested down by the ball fields, but it's an incredibly dangerous stretch of road. I personally have been in an accident on that stretch of road. Luckily, it was car to car. But the residents really, that Summer Street and Winter Street and Winthrop Street intersection is a really tough spot. People make two lines on Summer Street. You can't see if you're turning left. You can't see if you're turning right. People are trying to beat traffic. They speed out and then they're right in the middle of a crosswalk and there's somebody there. It's the same street that Medford High School is on. There's an MBTA bus route on that street. It doesn't have bike lanes, but it's obviously Winthrop Street's a very important thoroughfare in our community. So these are, some short-term, I've already spoken with Director Blake about this, Transportation Director Todd Blake, but I wanted to put it on the agenda just so that we voiced our support that we have some of these kind of more short-term mitigation measures, which are the flashing beacons, which we can do for an affordable cost. And then I think really a long-term look at the Winthrop Street corridor around painting, markings, stop signs and the like, because, once again, there was a similar mitigation with the raised crosswalk across from the Wesley Church up by Orchard. Maybe we need to start looking at that all the way down Winthrop Street, just because it's a serious problem. And I was just really glad to hear that this young person was fine. She was up walking. She was like, I'm okay. But it was a recovery period, and luckily it was not a worse injury. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mariana Ducey, 2 North Street. I just want to add, I know that woman, spoke to her. What happens in this area, if there's a ball game going on at the ballpark at the corner of Winthrop and Route 16, cars line up all along Winthrop Street to make it narrow there. So that's part of the problem. The other problem is that they opened up a bagel place in the corner of West Street and Winthrop Street. And they're right now open on the weekends. So when the bagel place is open, there's cars parked on both sides of West Street to go to the bagel place. In fact, some of the residents at the end of West Street told me that the cars even block the residents' driveways. They can't get out of their driveways because they're going into the bagel shop. So yes, the flashing signs may help, the crosswalks may help, but the activity both at the ballpark and the bagel shop is contributing to some of the congestion there. So, I mean, it doesn't, contribute to the fact that cars speed up that street, but still, that's some factors that have to be considered. Just because I'm happen to be here and I'm in that neighborhood, I know what's going on there. So just thought I'd add that.
Thank you. Council Morrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Councilor Bears, for bringing this forward. If I was curious if we could amend it just to get an update on the Sharrows so there's supposed to be the updated bike infrastructure when Winthrop Street is, repaved whenever that happens, but there is the portion that was repaved, but they did not add the Sharrows. I know Sharrows aren't perfect, but I think it does contribute to people just understanding that this is, a multimodal road. This isn't just a road you fly down. This is what people walk, bike, they're trying to cross on. So if we could just get an update on that, because I believe something strange happened, why the paint wasn't put down. So if we could get an update there.
Thank you. Council Bears.
Sharrow's issue. I was recently held to task by what I will call bike Twitter about that Sharrows are sometimes even cause more trouble than they're worth. I'm not saying I'm against them, but I think maybe in addition to what you said, we should get the bicycle commissions. What are their recommendations?
If I could, as a cyclist, I would say that it's perhaps divided how people feel about Sharrows.
You're a biker, so I defer to you.
What's happened now, since they closed South Street, the traffic is now going down George. And it's going down that area where you're talking about, because they say, because you can't cut across anymore. So we fix one problem, we cause another.
One more thing on this. I think, at the end of the day, the issue isn't necessarily the congestion or the rerouting. It's the speed at which the cars are able to travel on the streets. And, we have our 25 citywide. I think Winthrop might be 30 in that area, but, we've got wide roads. We've got Winthrop's an exception, but, for example, West Street, it's an incredibly wide road. And people just are encouraged to drive quickly down those very wide roads. And I think looking at obviously the short-term solutions around paint and all of that, but looking long-term, if we are going to be doing some significant revamping, hopefully, of roads and sidewalks going forward, since we now know we have a near $100 million backlog of work, we really need to look at the width of our roads.
Thank you. Vice President, did you want to speak?
Rapid flashing beacons.
On the motion by Councilor Bears.
For putting this on, but the rapid flashing beacon lights that were put at the corner of Riverside and Bradbury, they were installed probably 2 months ago, no longer functioning. They're solar lights and they are not working. So I would just ask if Council Bears wouldn't mind amending this, if the city can check into that, Mr. President.
You know, seeing that you're gonna amend it, I got one more for you to amend it, that the brand new ones that they just put up on the corner of Mystic and High are going all the time. They never shut off.
I've seemed to be working great.
So on the motion by High and Mystic. So on the motion by Councilor Bears, as amended by Councilor Marks and President Caravello, seconded by Councilor Falco. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. If we could pause for a 5-minute recess. See, we've been here for the past 3 hours. So if
We can
take
get through this in 5 minutes?
if we could take motion to take a 5-minute recess.
Yes, yeah.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. 5-minute recess. Second by Council Knight. All those in favor? Motion passes. All right. 21531, offered by Councilor Bears. Be resolved by the Memphis City Council that the Transportation Director work with the MassDOT to address serious issues of speeding on Highland Avenue in the interest of public safety. Councilor Bears.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll make this one quick. Highland Avenue in Medford is a MassDOT managed road. There's a lot of speeding going on that road, even though the speed limit is I believe 30 miles an hour. So if the transportation director could meet with MassDOT to see if there are mitigation measures. It's a long straight road. There's a lot of school buses and kids who are in that area. Thank you.
So, on the motion by Councilor Bears, Councilor Marks.
Mr. President, just if we can also add, if Council Bears wouldn't mind, the painting of crosswalks. I've been unsuccessful for the last probably year and a half trying to get crosswalks painted.
Okay.
On Highland Ave, yes, thank you.
Okay, so on the motion by Councilor Bears, second by Vice President Knight, as amended by Councilor Marks, all those in favor? Motion passes. 21532, offered by Councilor Bears, be it resolved in the Memphis City Council that the city administration report back to the council on the city's advocacy's efforts to ensure that the Silver Line extension proposed for north of Boston includes stops in Medford, including Wellington Station, and the potential for a route that includes Route 16 and Mystic Avenue. Councilor Bears.
Mr. President, for, I believe, at least since January, the state and the MBTA have been undergoing a process to map out the new route for Silver Line 3 extension. If people don't know, the Silver Line is the bus rapid transit service of the MBTA. Currently, I believe the route that they are favoring would take Silver Line extension and run it almost to Medford and run down 99 in Everett down to Sullivan Square. I think a preferred route for Medford certainly would be to come over to Wellington Station, and there are options for a route that would even go all the way down the Mystic Valley Parkway to Mystic Avenue and then down Mystic Avenue to Sullivan Station, which I think would be a huge benefit to our community, adding bus rapid transit service in one of the fastest growing areas in the city and an area that is currently, I would say, underserved by the MBTA, as much of our community is. I've also received some communications from residents that they feel like this could help augment the MBTA's continued refusal not to restore the express buses from Medford Square. And I also know that we've had David Walker here for many hours at this point. If he would like to speak after the councilors are done with discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. President. And that would be my concern, that would robbing Peter to pay Paul, and we're going to say, give us the Silver Line, but we don't want our one seat, one ride express buses. And that's a concern for me. I think anybody in this community that wants to take public transit would much rather get on the bus in Medford and take a express bus right down to Haymarket than to get on the Silver Line and take that Sullivan Station or Wellington Station, and then get on a train and then take the train to Haymarket. That's just my opinion, being a former commuter into Boston. It wasn't necessarily always the prettiest ride when you took the train. That one seat, one ride was very much more enticing than to have to do the switch. That's why, Express Bus, commuter rail always seem to be great options for us here in the community. And I'd hate to implement this Silver Line project that would eliminate the one seat, one ride options that we have here in the community, or even hamper our ability to restore them back to the level that they were at previously. I'm certainly aware that we do need to have many more transit options here in the city of Medford for our community, based upon our close proximity to the city, the congestion that we have here in the community as well. Certainly would warrant additional resources from the MBTA in terms of service provision. The question is, are we robbing Peter to pay Paul to get it? We're getting the Green Line, and as the Green Line's coming to fruition, we're seeing our express buses get eliminated. Now, if we petition for the Silver Line and we get the Silver Line, what is going to be that opposite and exact reaction to that action, I guess is the question, because it's all driven by ridership.
Yeah, and to Councilor Knight's point, I'm certainly in favor of a both and approach. I think given the outlay that this city is paying every year to the MBTA, even if we had fully restored express buses, we're still not getting what we pay for. And I think, with the express buses, and then this would, if this route were to come into existence, I would be fine with them even just extending it to Wellington Station. I think that would be a start. I think the longer route all the way across the city would be really something that's missing, which is a cross-city connection from Wellington Station to South Medford to Mystic Avenue, which is something that we don't have right now. But I agree with you. I certainly think it should not come at the expense of restoring the express buses.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I've been following this Silver Line. It's been around for, I think, a couple of years now. They've been discussing it. But the larger concern I have now is a recent report that I read talking about a 700 million shortfall. I believe the number was over 3-year period, 3 or 4 year period. Might be mistaken on the years. But I think as a community, we have to be proactive rather than to react once these cuts come down from the T, which you better believe is going to happen. And I think some of the issues we have to look at, like I believe we were promised that they were going to restore the 325 or 326 and some of the other lines that were cut. But now with these additional cuts, I think we have to meet on this. I really do, to discuss any information that T can give us. And it's few and far between, let me tell you. The MBTA does not share anything with you. And you only find out when all of a sudden the bus is no longer in service or whatever the transportation mode may be. So I appreciate Councilor Beers offering this. I think anything that we can do, we have to take a look at it. And if it's one or the other, then we have to take even a closer look. But I wouldn't throw anything away. Any increased access, I think we have to look at.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also want to thank Councilor Beers for bringing this forward. I do like the idea of being able to connect Wellington to South Medford. I definitely be in favor of that. But I also do am concerned with the express routes as well. As someone who has taken the 325 and the 326 for a good 15 years, it's had an impact not having it around. I'm receiving calls, and actually have an agenda item a little bit later, specifically about those bus routes. I'm getting calls from various people that I've taken the bus with. I'm sure Councilor Marks, you probably have too. I know you're a commuter as well. And these are concerned. People are concerned about these existing routes, or I should say, at one point were existing routes and are no longer available. You can even look at the 710 that runs up into the Heights, and that's an issue as well. So, I mean, Silver Line, I'm fine with, but I do get concerned that they're taking away routes that were definitely used. And I wouldn't want to give up one for another. I want both, and both Silver and the existing, the routes that are no longer, or have been temporarily taken away, I guess, or suspended. So, but I thank you for bringing this forward.
Definitely appreciate that concern. I think, to be direct, this is a process that's ongoing. They're going to do a Silver Line extension. There are some options that include Medford and some options that don't. It seems to me that the decision-making process on that is not at least directly tied to the decision-making process on restoring the old lines. And to Councilor Marx's point, I do think we should meet on the T funding issue. I did talk to Representative Garbley about this a bit. The legislature is really going to need to take action to come up with a long-term solution there. Clearly, ridership and office use in the downtown core, which is the main revenue generator for the T for fares, is going to be disrupted potentially forever. I think given the situation, there's going to need to be a long-term fix there. I certainly hope it doesn't come at the expense of local communities and local contributions. And I think we should advocate and say, we support you addressing this shortfall, not cutting service further, because that's just going to create the downward spiral, right? That's the issue we have now, is service is down, so let's cut service, and then service is going to go down more because the service isn't there. It's a public good, needs to be funded by the public, and I think that the State House certainly has more than enough options to figure out a way to address that, and I hope that we can meet and say, do your job. Thank you.
The motion by Councilor Bears. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to speak on this, sir? I'm sorry.
Couple of public meetings that the MBTA held on this matter. And I noticed that the MBTA's presenters showed a map of the study area and then a list of municipalities that were included. And even though that map included parts of Medford, the area where Wellington Station is, the list of municipalities that were included did not include Medford. And I asked the MBTA why, they didn't have a good answer. So my fear is that the city might be excluded from this process for whatever reason, because the MBTA didn't include, didn't invite, didn't allow the city to come in and give our perspective. So I hope that the city council will urge the administration to forcefully make the case for extending Silver Line service into Medford. I'd also like to point out that the Silver Line is important not just for connecting Wellington or Route 16, but it continues on through Chelsea over to the airport and to the Seaport District of Boston, both of which are areas that are extremely difficult to reach by public transportation from Medford. Even when the Green Line is completed and our express buses are restored, those two areas are critical job centers and destinations for people in Medford, and also origins for people who might come to Medford to patronize our businesses that are very difficult to reach by public transportation. So it's another reason that I hope that we'll push forward on getting Silver Line service into Medford. Thanks a
Thank
lot
you very much for coming up.
Thank you. And that is why in here, it's what has the city administration done to advocate for us here?
Councilor Morell.
Thank Councilor Bears for putting this on, and my fellow councilors for their thoughtful comments on this. And I thank Dave for bringing that forward, because I think we've seen what happens when Medford doesn't have a seat at the table in these state level decision making. So I really, whatever comes out of it, I really hope that the administration will respond and make sure that Medford is in the room when these decisions are being made. Thank you.
Bill, on the motion by Councilor Bears, seconded by Councilor Falco. All those in favor? Motion passes 2-1-533, offered by Councilor Bears. Be it resolved by the Medford City Council that the city administration send out a message requesting that input from residents on the citywide comprehensive plan process through water and sewer excise tax and property tax and other mail regularly sent to city residents. Councilor Bears.
This one's pretty self-explanatory. There is an ongoing comprehensive plan process. I think we need to make sure that the city is doing all efforts possible to reach as many residents as possible so that we have input on that comprehensive plan. And I think including an item about that in the mail that's regularly sent out to city residents would be one way to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. On the motion by Councilor Bears, second by Councilor Falco. All those in favor? Motion passes 2-1-534, offered by Council. I'm sorry. 2-1-534 by Councilor Bears has been withdrawn.
As well.
And 2-1-5 21535 has also been withdrawn by Councilor Bears. 21536, offered by Councilor Falco. Be it resolved that the city solicitor report back to the council as to the number of claims that have been made against the city or any of its employees in any court or administrative agency, including but not limited to the MCAD, Civil Service Commission, JLMC, since January 1st, 2021. Request should not include any workers' compensation matters. In order to protect the privacy, the response should include only forum where the matter is pending, number of claims pending in that forum, and date when the claim was filed. Council Falco.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm just trying to get some information. It's simply stated all right here. I move approval.
Okay, no, on the motion by Council Falco, seconded by. Second by Council Marks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 21538, offered by Council Falco. Be it resolved that the MBTA
Mr.
provide
President,
an up,
this was actually merged with Councilor Morel's earlier motion.
so we're gonna withdraw that one.
Oh, you did. You did. I'm sorry. I apologize. So
Okay,
you
yeah,
want
I'm
to-
sorry, 21538, offered by Council, be it resolved that the MBTA provide an update with regards to the 325, 326, and 710 bus routes. Council Falco.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have received numerous calls from residents regarding the 325, 326, and 710 bus routes. They have been temporarily suspended by the MBTA, but I know that many people are starting, or at least trying to plan to go back to work at some point. They were used to the convenience of taking the 325 and the 326, which Council Knight had mentioned earlier, take it right into Haymarket Station from West Medford and from North Medford and Salem Street area. And they were super convenient. Council Marks can tell you that firsthand. Clerk Hurtubise can tell you firsthand, as he used to take that, and Council Knight as well. These bus routes are needed by the community. They're in demand. They were actually pre-COVID, they were packed, and people are starting to go back and planning to go back, and we need to know what the MBTA is planning for these bus routes. So I'd ask that we get some sort of response from our state representatives. State Representative Donato, I know, has been working on this. I've talked to him about it. And, it actually be beneficial if we could have a committee, the whole meeting with our state delegation and with representatives from the MBTA. We need to know what the plan is going forward. And these bus routes are key to many people in this community. So I'd ask that you please schedule a committee, the whole meeting with with our state delegation and representative from the MBTA. Clerk Hurtubise, I know we had a meeting before. Do you remember who we invited to that meeting? This is going back, I think, a couple.
Yeah. I will reach out, I can reach out to Dave Carney, who's the head of bus operations. If you
Okay.
like. We can go from there.
Perfect. If we could start there, that'd be great. But this is a meeting that needs to happen. So I'd ask Council President, if you could please schedule that with the assistance of Clerk Hurtubise to get someone from the MBTA to join us in that meeting to let us know what the future is of these bus routes.
And the 710 is very important to the people at the Heights.
Correct.
That's your only mode to get to the square, shopping, the shopping centers and into the Wellington Station. So that's another key one. I know that the ridership may not be at the height that it used to be, but still an important route because it makes people get locked in there. So
North Medford is an area of the city that really is not served well by the MBTA. There's the 710 is the only bus that comes through there. Not having it does have an impact on many people in our
Stops at the
community,
hospital.
specifically our senior citizens. I've seen people waiting for that bus numerous times in the past, and now they don't have an option. So we need to get answers on that. And I appreciate you setting up a meeting. Thank you.
So,
So on the
Mr. President, if I could, and I want to thank Council Falco for bringing this up, and we've all talked ad nauseum about this. And, to me, how do we get this resolved? Money talks, right? How do we get this resolved? Money talks. So why don't we talk about our assessment to the MWRA? I'm saying MWRA, MBTA.
That's another story.
That's another story. The MBTA, our assessment, our yearly assessment, why don't we withhold a portion based on the service reduction? Can we do that?
I think they take it out of our check right away.
I don't know. Can we do that? Can we do that as a community? Say, this is what we're paying every year for service, Wellington, these buses, this transportation, whatever it might be, and say, this was a cut, it was a 10% cut. We're not going to give you the 3 million every year. We're going to give you 2.7. I'm just throwing ideas out there because it seems like we go nowhere with this. Honestly, they have us over a barrel and they just decide unilaterally what they want to do to us. So I'd like to ask the city solicitor if, as in a form of a motion, if we, as a community, can withhold assessments from the cherry sheet, from the city cherry sheet. So can we withhold assessments?
Mr. President, if
Councilor Bears.
Councilor Marks and Councilor Falco are amenable, I'd also like to ask if we can challenge our assessment in court, or if there's some sort of process to challenge it, because I do think the point is they will, if we were to try to withhold it, they would just, they take it out of what they give us in Chapter 70 and all of that before we could even withhold it. So the check is actually not even written by us. It's just subtracted out of what they send us in state aid, I believe is how the process works. So I'm wondering if there may be an alternative to that. But I agree with you in principle. If our services are going down, why is our assessment remaining the same?
Right. I've been trying not to belabor this, and I know it's late. I've been trying to assess the MBTA that has millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in tax exempt property in this community. And I've been trying to get them to pay a fair share, Mr. President, which has fallen on deaf ears for many years. Someday when I'm governor, maybe it's going to happen, Mr. President.
All right, so on the motion by Councilor Falco, seconded by Councilor Bears, as amended by Councilor Marks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 21539, offered by Councilor Falco, be it resolved that the Medford Police Department increase patrols at the Riverside Plaza on Riverside Avenue in the interest of public safety. Councilor Falco.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've received numerous calls from residents regarding Riverside Plaza down in Medford Square and Riverside Ave right behind us. And, when we rebuilt that plaza, it was, I think, rebuilt as a plaza, not as a park, and it gave the police department, I think, different jurisdiction over the property. And I'm hearing now that there's been drug use. People have found medications on the ground and whatnot. So if we could please have the Bedford Police Department step up patrols in that area in the interest of public safety. I know there's a lot of people down there that like to utilize that park, and we need to make sure it's safe for our residents. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Councilor Bears.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just request that we move to send this to the Public Safety Subcommittee. I've gotten some messages from folks that they'd like to have kind of a more comprehensive discussion about the area. And I also noticed that there was a hand raised on Zoom.
So you move this to Subcommittee on Public Safety? Correct, Councilor Bears? Yes. Okay, so on.
If I may, Mr. President?
Councilor Knight.
I think it would also be important where, the disease of addictions plagued our community now for the better part of a decade. It's not something that anybody's immune from. It's not something that we haven't been afraid to talk about. It's something that we've put on the forefront. And we have an Office of Prevention. We have Penny's office up there that's doing a great job. And, if we have a situation where someone's battling addiction and is in need of help, I think that, turning it into a police issue is one thing, but we have resources that are available as well. And I don't think this is something that should necessarily be turned into a police issue. It's a quality of life issue.
Correct.
Definitely a quality of life issue, but I don't think it needs to be a police issue per se. If someone is in the community struggling and needs help and we have the resources available, I think that they should also be brought to the table. So with that being said, I just ask that our Office of Prevention, maybe Officer Lockowitz, be included in the discussions moving forward, because they do a great job up there and they've helped a lot of people. And that's what we're all here to do, right? We're here to help people. So, I think that that's probably a good recommendation, Mr. President, to have friends from the Prevention Office be a part of this discussion.
And Councilor Bears.
Did see someone raise their hand on Zoom for public participation.
Council Falco, if we can amend that to,
Absolutely.
to also include the Sloan Garden in front of Century Bank. It is, in fact, this seems to be the police there every week also is made. That's getting to be quite a contentious spot also.
Thank you. And welcome to all the amendments from Councilor Beers and Councilor Knight. They're good amendments and, I definitely think Lori should be invited to the meeting. We need to address everything and it'd be good to have it'd be beneficial for everyone involved, just to have a good discussion about how we can, make these areas safer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your mic's not on.
Doing outreach, start doing outreach in that area because they know it's a problem area. They don't need to come to another meeting. They're gonna hear the same thing we've told them time and time again, right? I mean, I think ultimately, we need to ask them to go out to these hotspot areas and start performing outreach work.
So on the motion by Council Falco, who's got a hand raised here? Okay. Good evening. Hi, Miranda. Name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Miranda Bersenio, Taylor Street. And I just wanted to express opposition that more police patrol in the park area would be in the interest of community safety. Community safety means that everyone and that everyone feels safe in the community, not just those who would like to see their property values maintained and keep people who they deem unworthy out of their neighborhood. Police don't keep us safe. In fact, police departments are rooted in white supremacy and anti-Blackness. They have foundations in the history, and slave patrols and modern-day police forces have directed oppression and violence at Black people to enforce Jim Crow, wage the war on drugs, crack down on protests, criminalize homelessness, and more. Police do not prevent crime from happening. They respond after something has already happened. If the council's concern is to truly invest in community safety, there is a multitude of empirical evidence that suggests funding education and other social services like drug addiction rehab and safe consumption sites are what keeps communities safe. So I urge the council to vote no on more patrols and instead look for opportunities to allocate more funding to Medford Public Schools, affordable housing, respond to the climate crisis, address racial injustice, drug addiction in our city, and more. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. So on the motion by Council Falco, as amended by Council Bears to move to public safety and as amended by President Caravello. Do I have a second on the motion? Second by Vice President Knight. All those in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote, Mr. President.
Yes, sir. Council Marks has requested a roll call vote. Clerk, please call the roll.
Can you just repeat what the motion and amendments are?
To move it to to public safety for further discussion, and I amended it to include the Rose Sloan Garden in front of Century Bank.
And then Councilor Knight's on it, right?
And Vice President,
Include Kenny and Rory and ask them to do more outreach in the area.
yes. So as amended by myself and Councilor Knight. Okay.
Council Bears,
Yes.
Council Falco,
Yes.
Vice President Knight. Yes. Council Marks.
Yes.
Council Morel.
Yes.
Council Scarpelli is absent. President Caravello.
Yes, 6 in the affirmative, motion passes. 2-1-540, offered by Council Falco, be resolved that the Republic Parking provide the Medford City Council with a monthly revenue metrics from January to August 2021. Council Falco.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is just a simple request just to receive information from Republic Parking with just revenue metrics from January through August of this year. We're getting ready to transition over, so I just want to see how we're doing from a revenue perspective year-to-date through August 2021. Thank you.
Okay, so on the motion,
Mr. President,
Council Marks.
if I could, I thank Councilor Falco for bringing this up. I raised this issue during the budget, Mr. President, when we spoke about the taking of the parking program in-house. And I won't go through my entire statement, Mr. President, but I have some grave concerns that we're about a little over 3 months away from taking this program in-house, and I have yet to hear how we are going to operate, Mr. President. We have a budget that I believe was allocated of $250,000, which is not enough money to establish a full-fledged parking program that consists of meter people, that consist of people that work in the office, that consist of people that empty the machines out, that fix the machines. So, and I'm not sure how this is going to happen, to be quite honest with you. And I think, you know, people have big expectations come January 1st. And honestly, can any of us say what this program is going to look like January 1st? Are we going to be able to meet the current obligations? So the current streets that are resident permit parking, the hundreds of them around the community that people have grown accustomed to having enforcement on, will that happen January 1st? Will it be a smooth transition? I don't know. So I can't tell people that it's going to be a smooth transition. My personal opinion right now, it's not going to be a very smooth transition. We don't have appropriate funding to run a full-fledged parking program in the community. And I think a lot of the enforcement's going to suffer, Mr. President. And I just want people to be aware of that. So, you know, I've been on the record, even during budget a couple of months back, saying that I don't believe with the current funding and the current process set up. Can anyone tell me what the process is? Where's the office going to be? Who's going to be doing the hearings? How many people they're going to hire? You know, are we going to include other streets in the resident permit parking? Are we going to do citywide resident permit parking? These were all recommendations made by the committee that the mayor put forward, and they did yeoman's work. I'm not saying they did yeoman's work, but now the next phase was, how do you carry it out? And we're not there yet. 90 days. I mean, is there a committee working on it now? Is anyone aware? So really, I mean, these conversations need to be had because, you know, people are going to start pointing the finger. And let me tell you, the finger's not going to be pointed at this Medford City Council because we've been raising the red flag for the last couple of months saying, I don't know how this program's going to work. We haven't had any involvement in the establishment of this program other than hearing from the administration that they're taking it in-house, which I support 110% taking it in-house. I just want to know the bolts, the nuts and bolts of how it's going to run. How are we going to fund it? What do we anticipate the cost? The chief of staff, when he was here, Dave Rodriguez, when I asked him if they're going to run the program with 250,000, said that was just really a small starting point. So are we talking taking a year to get the whole program up and running? I think residents have the right to know that, and especially enforcement in this community. You know, we moved to creating an outside company to come in because there was a lack of enforcement. And I remember the days where people would park in the square for 15 hours and go into town. And the business owners would say, I can't get anyone to come in my business. There's no parking. Right? You remember that, Councilor President Caviello? You know, so these are the issues. I think I don't want to revisit them again. And it feels like we're going down that same path. So I'm really concerned. And I appreciate Councilor Falco offering this tonight. This is a little unrelated, but it's a real concern. It should be a concern of everyone in this community.
And if you notice, traffic enforcement is at a minimum right now. You barely see them out enforcing any parking anymore. You'll see one person here or there. Councilor Falco.
Mr. President, and I want to thank Councilor Marks because I share those same concerns. You know, here we are, it's September. This is going to transition over in January, and there are some major concerns. This isn't, you don't just flip a switch and it goes over. There's all kinds of, you know, implications with regard to software, policies, procedures, who's going to run it, who's going to manage it, what's happening with the cash, what are the policies behind that? There are all kinds of issues with this. And if it doesn't transition correctly, there are going to be some pretty significant ramifications with regard to revenue. I mean, if the city's counting on revenue or to maintain revenue, and this doesn't, you know, go off without a hitch, that's going to be a problem. So I share those same concerns, and I thank you for bringing that forward, Council Marks.
Mr. President, thank you
Council
very
Knight.
much. When the parking program first rolled out some 10 years ago, one of the biggest criticisms that we received as a community was, what's wrong with you rolling out this program in the middle of the winter?
Exactly.
And now here we are, rolling out the program again 10 years later into January, the month of January.
Yeah.
We have to learn from our mistakes at some point, Mr. President.
If you
when
recall, that was my
Council
comment to the chief of staff.
Yeah.
Learn from the mistake we made the first time,
Yeah.
rolling it out in the middle of the winter.
When
And
Councilor
people
Marks
couldn't
asked
figure it
what
out.
this is gonna look like come January 1st, it's gonna look like the Gong Show. I'm gonna
Right.
tell you right now, it's gonna look like the Gong Show.
Yeah.
We don't have the capability at this point in time with the funding that was in that budget. So what, close to $500,000, I believe?
Thought it was 250, but I may be
250.
off. Was it 350? Was it three? It wasn't much more
It's
than
not gonna
that.
cut the mustard.
Yeah.
It's not gonna cut the mustard.
Yeah.
And that's your personnel costs.
And currently they have
Um,
five.
Good luck getting a director for that salary too.
And the idea is that, this is gonna be a self-sustaining department that's gonna have a revolving fund where the revenue that they bring in is gonna make it so self-sustaining that we're not gonna have to ask the taxpayers to chip in. I don't think that's gonna be the case at all. I think that we're gonna end up seeing numbers that are worse than the numbers that we see right now with Republic. Just because Republic has the expertise in knowing how to do it. And right now, we're starting off like the bad news bears.
Move approval.
On the motion by Council Falco, seconded by
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Marks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 21541, offered by Council Falco. Be it resolved that the city engineer investigate flooding issues in front of 1 Usher Road and report the findings to the Medford City Council. Council Falco.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was walking through the neighborhood of Usher Road and Plaisted Road last week, and I was talking to one of the residents, and they were telling me about the issues that they're having with significant flooding. The water comes down Usher Road during a rainstorm, and it almost floods instantaneously. And it needs to be addressed. He showed me pictures. We're talking flooding that's probably like 2 feet high. And it goes all the way out into Plaisted Road. I would ask, because I have another resolution following this one that's similar, but I would ask that we have a committee of the whole meeting with the chief engineer to see what we're doing to address these issues. This gentleman told me he has to go out, when he knows it's going to rain, he has to go out, all the neighbors call each other. He has to go out and make sure that those shores are clean of any type of debris. Because if they're not, it's major flooding. Even if they are clean, it's major flooding. So this needs to be addressed. It's becoming an increasing problem. And it's a real quality of life issue. He's telling me that the water, he showed me pictures actually. I can forward them to everybody. But it's probably like 2 feet, 3 feet tall in high in some areas. It's a major concern. It needs to be addressed. I think a committee, the whole meeting, because I know there's various flooding issues around our city. This resolution in West Medford, there's one in North, the next resolution. We need to get on top of this and see if this is an issue where maybe at one point in time, the water could, the system could keep up with the water flow. It can't now. This particular street has 2 sewers on each side of the street, and it's not keeping up with the water flow.
Catch basin.
Catch basins, I'm sorry, excuse me, catch basins. And so this needs to be addressed, and I think we should have a committee, the whole meeting, to meet with Tim McGivern, the chief engineer, just to go over these issues and any other flooding issues that people may have. I know I've received calls from South Medford a few weeks ago. This next resolution is about North Medford, but this one here is in West Medford. Usher and Plaisted Road, major problem, major flooding, and even when it's not that bad of a rainstorm, so.
Councilor
I
Morrell.
move approval.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks, Councilor Falco, for bringing this forward. I fully agree with the idea of this going to a committee of the whole, because I think we've all heard from residents who have lived in their homes for decades and they're experiencing flooding instances that they've never seen before, and really bizarre scenarios that with extreme climate events are only going to increase. So it's something that we need to get out ahead of, even though we're already a little bit behind, but something we actually need to, I know the engineering department is working on it, but so that we're all fully in the loop, So how we can report back to residents and make sure that we're really focused on this issue. So I thank you for bringing this forward.
Council Falcon, if you could add on the corner of Badger and Winthrop, the gentleman who moved there was promised 2 years ago that they would put a second sewer in to help out. Every time it rains, his garage gets 3 inches of water, just fills up and.
And the top of Governor's Ave, the last street on the top of
we
Governor's
can-
Ave.
we can go down the line.
Which street is that, Mr. President? Top of Governor's Ave to the left, the last street. It's a dead end.
I don't know. We can go down the-
That's a, let
Then
me
you,
tell
then
you.
you, then you got the one that's on the
What
new
is it?
intersection.
No, it's,
Sherwood?
Yeah.
Sure, no,
it's not
no.
Sherwood.
Yeah,
On the other side.
we still.
It's on the
we still-
left-hand side.
We
going
still
up.
have the one that, with the new intersection where the lady gets flooded every time.
Yeah,
I just,
it's
Council
everywhere.
Falco's right, we could sit here and make a list forever for all the flooding that goes on. So,
Chalmont.
Chalmont,
If
that's
we
the
can add Chalmont, Mr.
Yes.
President, that
Chalmont.
resident has approached the administration and Tim McGivern's been out there and it's a nightmare on that road. Thank you,
These-
Council Beers.
These issues need to be addressed. It'd be nice to have a committee of the whole meeting where we could actually point out these particular areas and at least give the engineer somewhere to look and come up with a plan or try to determine what the issue is moving forward, so people are not having flooded basements just with the,
yeah,
when it's, sometimes the rain's not even bad and they're getting flooding now.
never mind the calls we've gone over the last 3 days of the house, of people that are waiting for their checks for the houses that have already been flooded.
Yep.
So,
Mr. President?
Councilor Falco, do you want to move it to committee of whole or you want to move for approval on this?
Let's, this.
Or both?
Yeah, approval.
And have a committee of the whole meeting.
Because I'd like the engineer to get started on it, but I think we should have a meeting as well.
So,
If I may, Mr. President?
Councilor Knight.
I think one of the things that we need to look at, that we haven't looked at in recent years, that we did look at previously, was the water table. The level of the water in the lakes, using the locks to control the water table so that we have the ability to sustain significant rain. And, I think it's one of the detriments to losing, such a high level of institutional knowledge over such a short period of time. As we've seen, a lot of people, a lot of turnover, we lose that institutional knowledge. And then when we start relying on, planning agencies and outside entities to come in and do the planning for this community without that institutional knowledge, it creates a situation for us. So when we look at the project on High Street, for example, where the resident was told that the catch basin was going to get tied in for 15 years, the catch basin never gets tied in. Now they do this project and the resident gets 6 feet of rainwater in their basement because the lack of institutional knowledge. Lack of follow-up and institutional knowledge. So I think it's important, Mr. President, that the employees that we value that have this institutional knowledge, we need to keep around. I think it's very important. But one of the things that I really think we do need to look at is the water table and the level that we keep the lakes at. It's always been historically something that, I remember as a kid, they'd always lower the level of the lakes in the rainy season and always let it come back up in the summer. I think it's something that needs to be looked at.
Mr. President?
Councilor Falco.
If I may, can we also add, in addition to the engineer, can we also have DPW there as well? Maybe Steve Tenaglia, he seems to have a good, talking about institutional knowledge. I know he has a very good background as to where things usually flood and don't flood, and I think he'd be able to add a lot of value in that conversation.
So, on the motion by Councilor Falco, as amended by President Caravella and Councilor Marks, to add Badger and Chalmont, and to refer this to a committee of the whole with the DPW and the engineering departments. I get it all?
Yep.
Seconded by? Seconded by Councilor Bears. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 2-1-542. Offered by Councilor Falco, be it resolved that the city engineer investigate the flooding issues in front of 61 Cedar Road North and report the findings to the city council. Councilor Falco.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a similar situation up on Cedar Road. Recently, they had probably about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, a bad rainstorm, and the water, the way that neighborhood's situated, they have 2 roads that, well, actually, the road just kind of dips at that one point, and there was significant flooding. A number of the neighbors had probably good 2-3 feet of water in their basements, and some of it actually went out into the backyard as well. And this is a similar situation where this needs to be addressed. I just want to, if we can add this if we can add this address to the committee, the whole list, that'd be perfect. Just so this city engineer can look into that.
Yep.
As well. And I think in this situation, this particular situation, this is an area where at one point the road stopped years ago and then they added on. So I don't think the infrastructure can really handle, the newer part of the street, but the engineer would be able to answer that best. So if we could add this to the list of streets for the committee, the whole meeting and move approval. Thank you.
Thank you. So on the motion by Council Falco, seconded by Vice President Knight, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Motion to take papers in the hands of the clerk. Motion by Council Falco, second by Council Morel, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 21550, offered by Council Marks, be it resolved that the Medford Police Officers Guy Leone and Sergeant David Bono be recognized on their 36 years of dedicated service to the residents of Medford. Both officers have served with distinction and honor and when above and beyond the call of duty for many years of service. Councilor Marks.
Thank you, Mr. President, and it's amazing. We had two other officers that are retiring, and over the last year, we've had talk about institutional knowledge being lost in this community, Mr. President. We've had a number of good officers that are retiring, Mr. President, and it's sad, but I'm happy for them. Guy Leone, if anyone knew Guy Leone is one of the nicest guys you want to meet. He did his job for 36 years. Always a patrol officer in the car. You very seldom see that. 36 years, Mr. President. And he liked his job. He liked being on the street. He liked the interaction. He liked helping residents. And that was the type of guy. He would prefer hunting someone down before giving a ticket. I mean, that's who he was. And he looked out for people. He looked out for his fellow neighbors and Medford residents. And just an all-around good guy. He's going to be missed sorely, Mr. President. Again, I hope he comes back when they eventually offer retirees to do some work on the side, Mr. President. Well, actually, it's not on the side any longer. It's some work, Mr. President, during their retiring years. And I want to wish him well. He's going out September 30th. And I want to wish him well, Mr. President, and I hope to see him around the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. President, I'm sorry, there's two names on there.
Two names, Officer Bono.
That's one. I don't know if anyone wants to talk on him, but Sergeant David Bono, Mr. President, another one. They both came in roughly the same time. They both have 36 years of service. I won't be around in January, and that's why I'm offering it tonight. He's retiring January 8th. And anyone knows Sergeant Bono, he's been involved in the patrolmen's union for years. He's been involved in the superior officer union for years. A great officer. Both these officers, Guy Leone and Dave Bono, unblemished records. 36 years, both, each 36 years and unblemished records. They've had a number of accomplishments throughout their career. Sergeant Bono and Guy Leone, I call them frickin' frack. You see one, you see the other. It's amazing. I don't know how they got their schedules to be like that. You saw one, you saw the other. And just two excellent officers. I've always felt safe with them on the street, Mr. President, and having them out there. And Sergeant Bono, with his oversight and being a supervising officer, has always done a tremendous job. And again, they both will be sorely missed. I would ask that they receive council accommodations, Mr. President, for each having 36 years of committed and dedicated service to the residents and property of the city of Medford. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just
Councilor Falco.
also wanted to echo the sentiments of Councilor Marks and thank Officer Leone and Sergeant Bono for the continuous commitment to the community and thank them for their many years of service and wish them well in their retirement. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe, on the motion by Council Marks, seconded by Vice President Knight. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Reports of committee, 21450, August 17th, Committee of the Whole report. This was a Committee of the Whole regarding zoning with Mark Rapowski. And we have our next meeting with Mark, the 29th, Mr. Clerk. So it'll be, hopefully the last meeting with Mark will be on the 29th. Motion to accept the report.
Motion, Mr. President.
On the motion to accept the report by Council Marks, seconded by Council Bears. All those in favor? Motion passes. Records. The tabled records of the meeting of July 13th were passed to Vice President Knight. Vice President Knight, how did you find those records? Okay, the records of the August 17th, 2008 were passed to Councilor Marks. Councilor Marks. Oh, the motion by Councilor Knight for the record, seconded by Councilor Bears. All those in favor? Motion passes. The records of the August 17th, 2021 were passed to Councilor Marks. Councilor Marks, how did you find the records?
I did not find them at all, Mr. President.
Okay. Did you not find? Okay, so you want to table them?
If you say so,
Okay.
yes.
So Councilor Marks has been able to find the records. Until he finds them, we'll table them. Seconded by Councilor Bears. All those in favor?
Aye.
Records of the special meeting, August 26, 2020, were passed to Councilor Morrell. Councilor Morrell, how did you find those records?
I found the extensive records to be in order and move approval.
The motion by Councilor Morrell, seconded by?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Bears. All those in favor?
Aye, what's,
Aye.
aye.
Motion passes. Motion to adjourn.
Aye.
By Vice President Knight, second by Councilor Bears. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.